as we wake up to a new normal today and life is slowly grinding to a halt.
Now masks are becoming the new normal.
Americans are facing a new normal, one that may include losing their jobs, losing their income, and even losing their health insurance.
I don't think we get back to normal. I think we get back, or we get to a new normal.
It's time to reject the new normal.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system.
It's time to reject the Great Reset.
It's time to support the People's Reset.
It's time for the Greater Reset.
From January 25th to the 29th, journalists, activists, researchers, and advocates are hosting the Greater Reset Activation, a 5-day event dedicated to offering an alternative to the World Economic Forum's top-down, centralized, authoritarian vision. Our desire is to help all people find community and liberty by providing practical steps and knowledge for co-creating a world that respects individual liberty, bodily autonomy, and choice.
The Greater Reset is the world's collective response to the World Economic Forum's initiative, the Great Reset. We invite you to join us for 5 days of discussion about the diverse opportunities available for those who seek to live in harmony with humanity and the planet, while respecting our innate freedom.
Each day is dedicated to a different domain and provides solutions to the WEF's vision. Day 1 is dedicated to the Agora and decentralized economics. Tuesday the 26th will focus on health and education. Day 3 will focus on nature, permaculture, and regenerative agriculture. Thursday the 28th will highlight the liberating side of digital technology, including encryption, blockchain, and decentralized autonomous organizations. On Friday, January 29th, we will end the event by showcasing examples of intentional communities, freedom cells, and community organizing.
Don't miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hear from some of the most powerful speakers in the world, with a focus on solutions. We encourage everyone to organize local watch parties in your area using freedomcells.org. Also, find out more about the Greater Getaway in-person event in Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Visit thegreaterreset.org for more information.
Here we are.
All right, what's
live once again, day 4.
Yep,
Cuatro.
yep. We are back here for another day of solutions. John, we've talked about the Agora, counter economics, alternative economic systems. We've talked about health and education, how to get out of those systems, how to better take care of our children. We've talked about nature, permaculture, all the different intersecting topics, homesteading, and today we're getting into another juicy topic that I think, like yesterday's topic, can sometimes be a little, opinionated. People are opinionated on all sides about the role technology is going to play in the world that we're moving into, and we're going to be talking about that. But before we get into that, I know you had a couple of things you wanted to cover, John.
Yeah, well, I'd like to start by inviting everyone to check out this super cool shirt I'm wearing. Look at that, the Freedom Cell Network. How about that? I bet you would like to rep one of these really cool shirts, and guess what? You can do that by going to thegreaterreset.org/shirts. There's also a menu item right here. So check it out. We have 2 shirts, the Freedom Cell Network and the Greater Reset logo here, both on white, super simple. And we want to invite you to check these out. We're selling them for $25 a piece. And we know this is a global movement, so we will be shipping internationally. So yeah, you can pay with PayPal, and the details are there. You can pay with Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ethereum, Dash, and Monero. And we strongly encourage you to fill out this form and be very clear and thorough. Yeah, Monero is great for privacy. Be very clear and thorough as far as how many shirts you want and the sizes of each. We're trying to make it real easy for you here. But yeah, we'd love for you to be repping these shirts. They look sharp, and you can represent the Freedom Cell Network and the Greater Reset in your hometown. So we're super stoked to have these, and thanks to all the folks that made these logos possible.
Absolutely. And again, I want to start off today by just once again thanking all of the volunteers. I want to say the volunteers around here in Ziwa who have helped out with our event, and whole production crew back here, everybody volunteering. Can we get a round of applause for these guys right here who are making it happen?
Woo!
Yeah. And of course, we have an amazing, just totally decentralized team that came together. Philip, Manish, Garrett, and a few others from different parts of the world who have created all these graphics and everything we've been playing on screen. It's been really just taking things to the next level. So we're thankful for that. And yeah, like I said, we're going to get into some of the tech things. We do want you guys to continue to think in terms of activation. You know, I was thinking about this earlier, John. We're doing this, today is January 28th, and 4 months from now in May, the World Economic Forum is going to be meeting in person in Japan. This is going to be, you know, their official meeting. Since they're not meeting in person this week, they're doing an online meeting. And that's going to be the next Greater Reset event, May 25th through the 28th. And I plan to do another one here in Ziwa. So anybody else who wants to join, anybody else who wants to get part of our team, and we hope that everybody watching at home, wherever you're living, that you will organize watch parties. But what I want to talk about for a moment before we bring on our guests for our panel is what happens between now and then. You know, this is an activation, right? So let's say on Monday, you learned a little bit about pulling your money out of the bank and you put money in a credit union. That's a big first step. On Tuesday, you start thinking differently about how you can educate yourself. Yesterday, maybe you started, you know, buying some local seeds or starting microgreens or any of the ideas that were discussed. That's the first step, and that's an important step, obviously. But where are you going to be at in 4 months from now? That's what I want us to cultivate here. And we have a growing Telegram channel with 12,000 plus people. We've got growing Odyssey channels and all the social media and all that stuff. But of course, we want real world communities, and we want to hold each other accountable. So I think it would be really awesome to see everybody who's here in person and anybody who's listening at home to really think about what is the first step? Well, how are you going to get activated in some way for each day? And then how can we track that progress and hold each other accountable and then just support each other over the next 4 months, so that when we come back, for those who do come back, and let's say we do another get together online and in person in 4 months, that it's not just more of the same old thing, that we can actually see tangible progress from what we are, you know, aiming for. And that's what I'm aiming for, at least, to get activated today, to help others get activated this week, and see how we can move that forward so that when we do come back together, there's actual progress to show. And that's how we know that this isn't just a movement of people who like to pat each other on the back, or a movement of people who think we're better than everybody else who isn't here, or those sort of things, but a movement of people who are truly trying to change the world and manifest a greater reset. So yeah, I just wanted to make that point, John.
Yeah, I think that's great. And this will be the third time I brought this up. Just picture total freedom, total agorist, basically living kind of like Derek Bros over here. And here's maybe where a lot of people are right now. You don't have to just make the 110% jump, put yourself at risk what you've built or whatever, or you don't have to just pull your kids out of this, that, or the other in an erratic way, but just come up with a plan and start working your way towards more freedom, right? And just take baby steps, set up the garden in the backyard, start looking at the alternative schools, start checking into co-ops, start preparing. And you want to know the one thing that makes all of this easier, living free in an unfree world? Community. So once again, we invite you to check out the Freedom Cells Network, freedomcells.org. It's a place where you can get tapped into a community of like-minded individuals that are all on the same page and are all working together to opt out. And we can support one another. It'll make the transition quite a bit easier. Yeah. We're going to be talking about decentralized technology today. One of the big ones is blockchain. And I've mentioned before, it's quite the paradox, because the World Economic Forum, the Greater Reset, the technocrats, they're going to be utilizing centralized blockchain technology, whether it's central bank digital currencies or blockchains that track digital blockchain identity, all this crazy stuff. And I just want to make it crystal clear that blockchain is a technology, just like a firearm is a technology. It can be used to protect your family from attackers, or it can be used to coerce people, take their things, put them in cages. The important thing is that we're all very powerful people, and we have a wonderful opportunity using decentralized blockchain where we can own our value, we can protect our information, we can create information in a decentralized, censorless way so they can't take it down like big tech is so keen on doing lately. And I just want to point that out. It's not a technology we have to fear. It's something that we need to be prepared for because the technocrats are rolling it out. But I think one of the best ways we can prepare for it is by expanding the technology and utilizing it for the cause of good.
Yeah, I want to add to that, John. I think we both agree on this position, and I'll even just, be real and acknowledge there's some people out there.
I keep it real.
They think our event is COINTELPRO, or that we're co-opted because we're talking about things like blockchain and crypto. And this is again another area where there seems to be quite a bit of division, where people think that, as John was saying, that all use of blockchain or even digital technology itself is feeding into that system. Because it is true, the World Economic Forum, the predator class, the technocrat class do have plans to put everything on the blockchain so that they can track and trace all life, from cradle to grave, food, everything. I mean, they've put this out in writing. But there's also people like the folks we're going to hear from today who are working to use blockchain to create the exact opposite, to help people have systems that have trust built into them that don't involve governments, banks, and centralized institutions, so that we can find ways to both embrace the technology, but also, thinking about yesterday, stay connected to nature. I think that's very important, right? I personally am not a transhumanist. Everybody's free to do what they want, but I like my humanity, and I want to stay connected to nature. There's a lot of really scary things about technology that are coming up, but there's a lot of really beautiful things as well. So we're going to talk about a number of ideas. Let's go ahead and get into it, John. We got our first panel tonight is going to be featuring two guests who are both working on social media project, alternative social media. It's much more than that. They're going to tell you all about it. But again, these are alternatives to Facebook, to YouTube, etc. Those of you who've been following along online, we've been uploading all of the clips from the last 3 days. We haven't uploaded those, made an effort to upload those on Facebook or YouTube. The full streams are there, but we're not really pushing or promoting those. Instead, we've uploaded the archive for the last 3 days to our Odyssey/library channel and to our Float channel. And tonight you'll get to meet the CEOs of those companies so we can hear more about what they're trying to do. And if you don't have an account with them, you can find out if you... So let's go. Let's bring on Jeremy Kaufman and Kingsley Edwards. There we go.
That was a close one.
Yeah, the NSA was tapping in. We're getting too serious about these alternatives.
Just letting us know that they're there and watching.
Yeah. Welcome, gentlemen. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourselves? We're really pleased to have you today. Go ahead, Kingsley.
Okay. So yeah, Kingsley Edwards, CEO of Floats, crypto entrepreneur since 2013, and got into this because I saw what was happening with free speech, even back in like the Ron Paul days, and now it's just becoming more and more evident that there is an attack on free speech online, and also just recognizing that what's happening with obviously like with crypto as well. So we launched in 2019. And we are growing pretty well month over month. We got a great roadmap ahead of us here in 2021. And really, really excited to be here with you guys. Big fan of all your work and also library. Jeremy, great to be on this panel with you.
Excellent. Thanks, Kingsley.
Same. I'm also happy to be here with Kingsley. I'm guessing a lot of people have sort of seen what we've built already because it's linked very prominently on your website. But Odyssey.com, ODYSEE.com, is, we think, the successor to YouTube. So if you're just looking for sort of a YouTube with better policy, you can go on there immediately. But part of the reason that we think it's the successor is because of this blockchain aspect. Odyssey is built on top of a Web 3.0 protocol called Library. And we really think that this is the future. With this kind of technology, we can have a level of control that is unprecedented. So rather than needing to surrender the amount of control that we do have in the past, to YouTube or to these other places, we can retain it for ourselves. I think this is very powerful. So, I'm excited to talk about it.
Excellent. Excellent. Yeah, we're super excited to have you. And I think that there was a need for this regardless. But as everyone watching knows, the big tech censorship has definitely ramped up quite a bit. So, Jeremy, why don't you start by sharing a little bit about the underlying technology? Maybe you could first just explain what blockchain technology is in general, your interpretation of blockchain technology, and then share why blockchain is a valuable application for storing media and creating a site where people can access media all across the globe.
Totally. Although I want to do this with the preface that someone else's introduction to blockchain may be different than mine. So if this is your first, do your own research, and then maybe Kingsley can have some time after this as well. And I also want to say before I give my answer that you don't need to understand any of this. And so while what library does and what public blockchains are can get kind of complicated, like odyssey.com, super easy to use. My mom uses it. You don't need to understand. And in fact, most people don't understand all of the underlying things that it's doing, right? So in the same way, you can drive a car, you don't need to know how your engine works, right? So don't let the description of an engine, intimidate you from getting behind the wheel, if that makes sense. But a blockchain so in my view, a blockchain is first and foremost a database, actually. So that is and if database is a hard word, it's a spreadsheet. All Bitcoin is a map of an account to the amount of value in that account, to the amount of Bitcoin that it has. And so that sounds really boring, right? All it does is keep track of how much is in an account. But what's different about Bitcoin from every other database that came before it is we're somehow able to agree on how much each account has without trusting the one party, without saying, oh, Mark Zuckerberg's going to have the keys or Google's going to have the keys or whoever. We've actually built a system where the code has the keys. We've built a system where we can trust that the system has certain properties, but the system doesn't have one single point of control. This is new. This is kind of weird. If these sentences are new to you, the full implications of those aren't going to come easily. I'm still discovering them, and I've been in the business aware of the technology for 7 years. But it's a big deal. In the case of what we're doing, we use that property to say that so the Bitcoin property is the end result of Bitcoin is you have money that you have digital money that's cash-like. So that is, you have the key to send it, you retain it, and there's not an ability for someone else to reach in and drain your bank account the same way there is with online bank accounts and other things. So we have this cash-like property. Hey, it's mine, it's in my vault, but we can still send it online. What library does is it says, let's take that same property and apply it to digital content. So what we do is, in the same way that you can have that Bitcoin and have full control over it, we do that, but we allow you to have full control over your publishing identity. So you can have local control over your sort of essentially your online identity, how you publish and create digital content. So that's my answer.
All right, thank you, Jeremy. We appreciate that. Kingsley, we want to go to a different question for you, and I guess well, first, I want to ask you, what was your impetus? I think everybody can probably guess it's something to do with censorship, but really the push behind all of your effort to make Float.app, where it's at today, which is still a very young company and a very young product. But what is your main driving force to put the energy into this project?
Yeah, well, it happened with my wife and I. We started developing some, friendships with content creators on YouTube, people that, we've known and loved watching throughout the years, since 2007. And they hit, 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, 250,000 subscribers, 500, million. And they're finally getting to the point where they're actually making some, serious money and able to take it very serious as a pursuit of theirs. And most of these people are just independent journalists or just, covering various topics. And we just started noticing that, hey, one day, and this was after Alex Jones got canned, but yeah, one day, one of them got demonetized for no reason. Another day they got deplatformed. They're getting strikes for no reasons. They're getting, dinged for stuff that was, 5-7 years ago. And then I also started noticing that a lot of the same people, or just people across YouTube, they had to start changing the words that they were using just to cover current events, which is very Orwellian to me. And it's terrible as just like a researcher that's very curious. I've always been a curious person. I've always liked to research into various topics, whether it's health or anything that's going on in the world, cryptocurrency, and that's also getting censored. So yeah, actually, our company was working at the time on making a cryptocurrency wallet when we actually applied to Boost VC that was focused on privacy coins and making any privacy coins or tokens easy to use. But we thought that this was kind of too important, just as something that we should aim towards as far as the fight for free speech online. And also, just recognizing that it's also a pretty big business opportunity. We saw this happening, and credit to Library and Jeremy for even before. But we saw this, what was happening, and we considered that the trend was that it was just only going to get worse, and more people were going to get kicked off. Now we see, grandmothers. I think my aunts have been kicked off for various things as well on Facebook, and that's really kind of where we're going. We're more focused on like the Facebook feature set as we move forward in the future. And so yeah, we launched, we went through Boost VC, and here we are today. And it's just, I think right now it's so important. And going back to the business opportunity, our goal is to get to 100 million users within 5 years. And if you recognize, Facebook and YouTube, so it's the Goliaths they are, that's less than 5% of their user base. So, I think there's enough people out there, obviously, that are seeking alternatives to do something good, for the world and provide a good service and a great platform, but also, for the business opportunity. I mean, it's there as well.
Okay, Kingsley, I wanted to ask you one more follow-up and then have Jeremy answer the same thing. So I use both these platforms for the conscious resistance, and we're using it for the greater reset. Talk a little bit about what makes Float different, because Float, and again, that's FLOTE.app. You can post statuses, you can load images, you can load videos. You can also follow people like as if like a Patreon type thing, and sign up for monthly support. Talk a little bit about some of the features or just what you're bringing to the table that's different than some of the other alternatives that are out there right now.
Yeah, so out of the gate, yeah, we launched with regular social networking, stuff like that. Yeah, just the ability to upload audio, images, text, videos. We have a crypto Patreon model where you can subscribe to people for a monthly fee. And in Bitcoin right now, we're going to be supporting other currencies, including Library in the future. We'd love to support Library. So you can hide stuff behind a paywall for, similar to Patreon. And we have live streaming. And one of the cool things about Float too is if you recognize, which is with YouTube and all these big tech platforms, they act as a middleman when it comes to not only communication, but also transactions. So if you send a tip to someone on YouTube, Google's going to take 30% of that tip. Whereas on Float, we take 0%. So we're really just connecting these online identities, these social identities, and have the underlying payment channel be cryptocurrency, which is peer-to-peer. And so as a content creator or just a user on Float, you'll be able to collect 100% of the revenue that you generate. So and a big part of us too is that we're about interoperability. So right now we have it so that we're building bridges not only for what we call big tech or old tech or the previous big guys that we're kind of pushing out of the mainstream. But so we have a way where you can link your Twitter accounts to your Float account. So when you post to Twitter or post to Float, it'll auto post to Twitter. Right now you can download your Facebook post videos and pictures, your data from Facebook, and carry that over to Float. We want to become a library app so that you'll be able to view and engage in library content on Float, and as well as a bunch of other platforms out there that basically anything that we can really connect to, we'd love to be a bridge and build a great UI UX for our users.
Question, what you're trying to do. I mean, obviously you said you want to be a YouTube replacement. You think that's what you're going to be in the long term. How are you trying to do that in maybe a way that hasn't been done?
Yeah, am I on? Okay. So, well, I will give at least. I will give our cute quote that we're the successor to YouTube, not an alternative or a replacement. I think YouTube gets a lot right. There's plenty of the UI and the design. Like, Google's not bad at making software, although I think given the culture at the company, their future isn't bright. they have terrible policy, right? And fundamentally, their business model requires them to control and exploit you. It's the nature of the incentives that they have. So the way that what's sort of different is, one, it starts with our incentives. So we're incentivized for the success of the network. We've sort of tied our own hands up front by creating this open standardized protocol. So this ability for us to one day become evil simply isn't there, right? Because YouTube wasn't nearly so bad a decade ago. A decade ago, I think YouTube was a really great product. So we're not necessarily trying to completely revolutionize the experience. We're trying to change the incentives and the underlying technology. And we think we've done it in a way that's really substantial and really significant, that you can have this YouTube-like experience, but every creator doesn't have to have Google in the middle of this relationship. They can have the relationship directly with their fans, directly with their audience, have a relationship that can't be, sort of meddled with in the same way. And as Kingsley mentioned, like LBRY, we're very interested in integrating, and we're going to have to obviously talk more after this, not live on this session, but we want to work more with you guys. And that's the entire idea. Your LBRY identity, when you're built, when the greater reset is building up this following, like that's a following that is far stronger than a following, on practically any other, certainly any Web 2.0 platform. In the Web 3.0 platform, the following is much stronger. That's the answer. It's kind of
Can you share with us what the difference is between LBRY and Odysee? Because I think there's some confusion there. And then also having a decentralized blockchain that's, censorless, right, and immutable, it does leave opportunity for some ugly things to be uploaded, right? And I understand how Steam, remember Steam, and then it be turned into Hive. There's a blockchain, but then there's these front end portals that could actually block some of the stuff. Can you talk about y'all's policies when it comes to censorship? Because I'm sure there's some stuff you don't want to allow, and then also the difference between LBRY and Odysee.
Yeah, so it's actually very similar in terms of, to work backwards. It's very similar to Steam's in that regard in terms of how it works. And part of the confusion in our case, in the sense that there's this public blockchain. If people are going we filter at the application level. We're not going to allow illegal things to be done through our servers. But there's multiple ways you can interact. You can interact with with the network. There's not one way, and so that's why that difference between LBRY and Odysee. So LBRY is a decentralized blockchain-based network. We launched LBRY.tv, which is what I think when some people say LBRY, they mean LBRY.tv. And part of the reason we think that was a mistake is because of that exact outcome. So LBRY.tv, along with Odysee.com, these are centralized websites. My company runs these. Odysee.com in particular is designed to be a commercial product. That is, it's designed to support advertisers. And that's a separate thing from the underlying LBRY network. So LBRY is sort of like Bitcoin, and it has some properties that are different from what came before. Odysee.com is a website that interacts with it. It's Coinbase, right? And it's going to have more rules and all of these things. So in terms of so that's sort of the difference between LBRY and Odysee. In terms of how we deal with content that's against the law, we will process those reports. We publish lists of hashes that are known to be illegal or known to be infringing. Users and node operators who want to operate their software legally subscribe to those lists. Those lists are subscribed to by default. So we're not intending people to use our software in ways that are against the law, and we're trying to, we don't want people to do that.
Excellent. All right. Well, what about a similar question for Kingsley? Do you guys actually have? I know the whole idea is free speech, right? But like I said, there's some ugly stuff out there, not political content or anarchism or conspiracy theories, obviously. But what kind of policies do you guys have on censorship, or not censorship, but keeping crap off the
Yeah, basically the same thing. And we're not blockchain based right now. What we're doing, we're going in a different approach where we're using cloud service providers. We're actually in the middle of shifting one because they came out publicly about Parler. And they said they support open internet, but they agree with the decision with Parler. Anyway, so yeah, we're going on a different strategy. We have a lot some relationships with cloud service providers that are going to be able to handle our database in the way that we need it to be handled. We may introduce a way for users to spin up their own node in the future or something like that, but that that's to be seen, and we have our finger on the pulse as far as technology is concerned, and kind of this fight against big tech. But yeah, what was the other part of the question? Sorry.
No, that was mostly it.
What about how we handle content? Or yeah. So again, we have same thing as Jeremy. No one wants to go to prison over a post that's deemed illegal. And we have to deal with it accordingly. We're under duress, but also, we don't want to promote obviously the bad things that can be posted. But yeah, at the end of the day, it's just, we're a US based company, so we follow US law.
Right on. I'm curious, what is your business model? Because you guys both have companies. So Kingsley, first for you, how do you guys plan to make this a viable company?
Yeah, so we have testing right now for just home advertisement or home feed advertisements that we monetize off of. But what we're doing, we have basically two sets of ads. We have network ads, where we monetize off of. So if you think of a YouTube video, that's kind of the easiest. It could be a sidebar ad, it could be a banner ad, it can be even an ad in the chat or something like that. Our goal is to always have less ads than the big tech platforms out there. And then we have creator ads, which those go 100% from the advertiser or the other user to the other user or the content creator. So that's the main way that we're going to be monetizing. We're monetizing a little bit right now. We also have we're going to have in-app purchases. We'll have a premium account, and basically that. Yeah, those are the three main ways.
Right on. Let me. I'm going to share my screen right here and just show what Float looks like here. Although that just slipped away. There we go. So yeah, this is the site. And like you said, you're modeling after the Facebook kind of flow. And I have a profile on here and it's actually pretty seamless. You guys are doing a great job. Everything works great. And I think what's pretty cool is because, you and Aaron are crypto geeks and voluntarists, there's a lot of really cool people that are on this platform. So that's pretty sweet. How big is y'all's team, by the way? I know you guys just added some members. Tell me about your team.
Yeah, so we went from basically 3 people, which is pretty ambitious goal to launch a social network with all these features with 3 people. But yeah, now we are on 16 now. So this has just been in the past couple months. So right now we're kind of in a transition phase of moving from one development team to our new one that's much bigger. And yeah, it's we're going fast, so it's great. We're adding about like a person every week or 2 weeks now.
Excellent. All right. And Andrew, do you want to share with us about your business model? What you guys said you're doing advertisements. Can I advertise on Odyssey? Is that live?
There is some testing with advertisements that's live now. In the case of Library, the company Library makes Odyssey. So Library has been monetized substantially through the token that it created to date. It's also a VC-backed company. But our intent is to make money through the sort of branded and more custom app experiences. So through things like Odyssey. So Library Desktop, which is peer-to-peer and will always be free and ad-free and all these things. That will always be available for people who want some of either extra features or other things. They'll use Odyssey, just ease of use. And that we will take a cut of both, either transactions and or advertising from that site.
Tell us about the users can get rewarded with these library credits,
That's
right?
Yeah.
And commenting and stuff.
You're better at my job than I am. So yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I mean, it's very good to mention. So you can earn cryptocurrency, for watching videos like this. So if you get a verified account, so we do have to have you create a verified account to prevent fraud, and that cryptocurrency is coming from our company. But we'll give you a little bit just for watching a video every day. So when the library protocol was created, we retained a chunk of the token specifically for this purpose. So this has been the plan. This is a plan that's been we've been executing on it for 4 years, where we had to reserve the token and to continue to give it out and help the network grow. And we've been very responsible with how we've done it, and we've done it in a sustainable way. It's allowed us to get us where we are today as we really build out this more full-fledged monetization. And there is monetization now. I want to be clear. It's just coming from us.
I follow cryptocurrency and all the prices and stuff. And I saw, I don't know, like 3 weeks ago or something, the price of the library credits really just went up. Do you think that coincided with all the Parler censorship, or what do you think that's all about, that price action?
I think that my lawyers say I'm not supposed to talk about that on videos. I was like, I can't really speculate. We encourage people to buy the token so that they can use it on the network. That is the purpose of buying the token. So the price went up because more people wanted to use it, presumably.
All right, cool. I think it's great. You can get rewarded, but for the content. Derek, you got some questions, buddy?
Yeah, I got a question. Jeremy, I want to start with you, and then we'll go over to Kingsley. I actually just happened to see on the Odyssey Twitter account today that said live streaming premiering in 2 weeks. Is that true?
Yeah, we are doing some testing. I wish we'd been a little bit further along, as maybe we could be doing this event even, although I think there are already, there's always a couple of kinks when you do something new, so you guys probably wouldn't have wanted to be first. We did, I think, our 4th test today. So we're doing like a test every day or every other day, and we're hoping to roll it out to several hundred creators to the point where they can go live whenever they want, as soon as a couple of weeks. And then of course we're going to continue bringing it out to everyone. Anyone who's been with our company has seen the way we work. We try to move very fast. Constantly developing things. And we're also, sort of our attitude is we can move faster if we sort of give an earlier version of the thing to a smaller group of people. And so we're doing the same thing here. So I can't give you a precise timeline because you never know when you encounter issues, but we move fast, and we're moving fast on this. We think it's really important there be a place to live stream that's safe.
Yeah, I know that. I'll definitely make use of the live streaming whenever the feature comes out. Just before we go to Kingsley, any other new features or things that are coming to Odyssey library that you want to speak about? Jeremy, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Oh, sorry. I thought you were asking. I thought you had pivoted to Kingsley. I'm sorry.
Oh no, I want to ask you first because you mentioned live stream.
We have Odyssey coming out on iOS. So that will put us on every operating system. We're already everywhere else besides that. We have the live streaming coming out, and what are the other major? I mean, that's 2 very major features. Oh, playlists. Playlists are around the corner. So that's another major feature in the pipeline is playlists.
I definitely appreciate playlists as a content creator. I can say that.
Yeah.
Kingsley, you want to add anything else? What you guys have coming on the horizon? I mean, you have live streaming at the moment. You have some of these other features. What is the next steps for you guys as far as adding new features for the users?
Yeah, I think you guys are live streaming on Float right now, I believe. Oh yeah, Aaron sent you a tip. Yeah, we have man, this year is going to be crazy. Right now, we're just in the middle of structuring our organization so we can just accomplish as much as we can this year. But we have a token that I won't. Again, it's because of regulations. It's hard to talk publicly about it at this point. But we are releasing a native token on our platform. We want to become a library app, like I mentioned. So we'll be hopefully going to be able to integrate library credits and also library content onto floats. And I believe there'll be a way where we can engage with each platform to the benefit of the users. We have a marketplace that we're going to be launching. We just signed up a really big, not a pretty decent sized merchant that we're very excited about. So you'll actually be able to use floats for in-person transactions and with a business account, so you'll be able to buy things with cryptocurrency directly through the float app in person at merchants. And we'll probably have about 100 locations that we'll be rolling that out to in the next let's say 6 to 9 months. And man, what else? A whole bunch of stuff. Yeah, I mean, but that's kind of the main things that we'll be working on this year.
On. Yeah, let me if the producer will pull up my screen there, let's go to Andrew real quick and maybe he could show us around the Odyssey site there. So this is what it looks like, and here's our Greater Reset channel. So kudos to the volunteers and Derek. They have been just absolutely crushing it, uploading content. Can you share, Andrew, some of the stuff that you guys are going for with the look of this? And I understand Odyssey's maybe got a little easier interface. We need to pull Andrew up there. There's Kingsley looking all sharp and snazzy there. It's like, what the heck? Why am I on the screen? Here comes Andrew. Yeah. Oh, there he goes. Here he is.
Hey, all right. Hey, look, I think the user experience actually is quite similar to YouTube. What's different is what's backing it. We haven't, I'm not going to say we haven't done some things that are a little bit different in the interface when we thought we had a better idea, but the innovations here are really deeper than the interface, which I think, as I said, I think YouTube gets decent. The innovation is what's underneath. So you go on to Odyssey, like, I'm not going to say it's boring because you're going to find lots of interesting things, but you're not going to have some like exotic, learning experience about how to use the thing. If you've used YouTube, you're going to come out and be, all right, I know how to use this, right? Except what's different is you're going to find content like this. You're going to find the kind of content that you would have found on YouTube 10 years ago. You go to YouTube now, you go find Stephen Colbert and, cooking shit and like whatever, Gordon Ramsay, right? Like, so come on to Odyssey, you'll find some fun things. And that's the real reason to go there is the content.
Right on. I realized I just called you Andrew because I was thinking Andrew Kaufman, the controversial doctor.
I was going to just roll with it. We're here to talk about Odyssey. Get that name right. So
I think I threw my producer off. Let me ask, this is a question for both of you, but let's go with you first, Jeremy, not Andrew.
Yeah.
What are some of the risks that I know that you guys kind of inferred about this whole token stuff? So we'll leave that one on the table, or not on the table, on the floor. But what are some of the risks that you guys see to this type of business model and going up against big tech?
I'm much more, the concern when you're building a company that you want to be used by 1 billion people is that you don't build a product that's good enough that 1 billion people want to use it. Like, you're not able, like, the concern about being threatened by the government or big tech or whatever, like, I'm user experience 100% of the way. If I get that right, I'll get through everything else. Like, building, so I'm not thinking about those things first and foremost is my honest answer. I assume I'll be able to solve them. Not that we're being reckless about it. Like, we have plans. We're not thinking about like, deplatforming these kinds of things, but my thing is grow, get users, get content. That's what I'm thinking about all the time.
Let yourself go up to risk, but I think with the Freedom Cell Network, a lot of people, when we bring up the idea of a bunch of people working together in a decentralized way, peer-to-peer, going to the gun range, growing food, some people's first reaction is fear. And that's the paradigm that they operate in. And when that's your paradigm, it takes you out of productivity and proactivity. So I appreciate that response because, like, you guys are doing good work. You have nothing to be afraid of. Just got to plow forward and keep with it. The same question, Kingsley. We'll see if you have the same answer, but are there any risks that you guys are concerned with or anything that you guys are looking out for, preparing for?
Well, I bought a few more guns last year, so just in case, But no, I mean, yeah, again, you just gotta roll with the punches. I mean, there's a lot of things that are moving very fast when it comes to big tech censorship, potential regulations, this current administration. There's a lot of things, cryptocurrency. So, and also just decentralized tech. So yeah, I mean, we're in the same boat where we're just kind of focused on, just building a good product. We're finally where we're at, where we're starting to build, as a team. We've kind of been kind of scrappy in the last couple years. So now we're at the moment now where it's just, heads down, let's build this company and let's, come out the other side. And again, I think that there's a big movement overall where, the shift from, I call it like big tech versus small tech or alt tech or whatever. And I think there's just so much opportunity out there. So I'm just so proud to be part of this movement and happy to see that, others are doing well. And now's really our time to shine.
Awesome. Great. Okay, cool. Before we let you go, will you both just share with us what a new person can do, what they need to do to sign up on your site? We'll go to you first, Jeremy.
Go to odyssey.com, follow the Greater Reset. If you need more instructions than that, I've failed at our job. I mean, like, really, it's easy. Just go and do it.
Right on. Yeah, if you're familiar with YouTube, it's pretty much the same interface, just a lot cooler. All right, Kingsley, where do people need to go to check out your work and to get signed up on your social media site?
Yeah, check us out at float.app. That's flote.app, or joinfloat.com. And, I'm on there, King. And join our community. I mean, all these platforms need as many people as possible right now to test out the features and help us make the case that small tech is here to stay and overtake big tech.
Right on.
Kingsley, for being here. Can we get a round of applause for these guys? All right, guys. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you for all the work that you're doing. I'm going to continue to use and promote and support your platforms, and I hope everybody here will. And if you guys are hearing of Float and Odyssey/Library for the first time, check them out tonight, because that's where we're putting all of our content. Thank you, guys.
Thanks.
All right.
Thank you.
There's me again. I think
All right, welcome back to the Greater Reset activation for day 4. We're going to continue. We just talked with the CEOs of Float and Library/Odyssey about decentralizing social media, which we know is a big aspect of this struggle for free speech and to get out important information. Now we're going to go to our next speaker, who is going to talk more about not only how do we think about decentralizing and freeing social media, but how do we decentralize the internet itself. So we're going to go to Brady now. Brady from DWeb, thank you for joining us. We appreciate it. The floor is yours, brother.
Hey, what's going on, Derek? Can you guys hear me okay? Is everything good?
You're a little low. If you can get a little closer to the mic.
Bit?
Yeah.
If I can get it up. There we go. Any better? Maybe?
Yeah, that's good. Go for it.
Yeah. Okay, cool. So look, guys, I'm just going to have a conversation with you because there is a lot of dry information, and I don't want to get anybody too bored on this. So I'm going to try to keep it a little bit more upbeat, but just remember, there's a lot going into this, and like Derek said, we are completely decentralizing the internet itself. So, there's a lot of, well, you know what, let's just get moving. Okay. So to kind of keep this lighthearted, in some of my digging, I found October 29th, 1969 was the first internet message. It was from UCLA to Stanford, and all it said was log in. And I don't know if any of you guys know, but that crashed the whole system. But DWeb is writing the tombstone for the internet that we know. The internet has practically just made a new world, the world that we live in. And it's redirected wealth for several billionaires. So many people have gotten a lot of money off of this. And as we know, the internet, you probably know, the internet has produced 6 of the top 10 wealthiest people in the world. One of my favorite guys to read when it comes to investment is Robert Kiyosaki. And I read a quote from his that was saying 90% of millionaires will be created on the internet. Just in the internet. That's a crazy fact. But all this growth has really come at a cost. In the beginning, there was a lot of legislation that was passed with this notion that it was supposed to, protect the users while handing out this like infinite amount of knowledge, and freedom was supposed to come with this. But, as the wealth grew, and the online presence and these businesses really grew, everything started to really break down and disappear, at least for the user. So these big internet companies began to create just a stranglehold of information that, all the intentions of why the big tech was created in the first place was, seems to be lost. And it was like their reason for being was gone. So it's pretty easy now to get on and say whatever you want. And as a lot of you have seen, they'll let you say what you want as long as they agree with you. So, as the users of the internet, we're kind of losing a war that big tech started, in the attempts for them to control us. Now they know what you had for breakfast. They know what route you're going to take to go to work. They can connect you with your high school friend. They can give you the latest laugh at whatever your least favorite politician is. They know how many steps you took that day. And supposedly all this is free of charge, right? Because their job is to help you, right? This notion that they're helping you or that they're making your life easier comes at a cost. Now, we know that all the spying that they've done to help you, right, that came at a cost to the user. The users have been like sheep or like cattle being led to their next opinion or to their next vote, and then is auctioned off to the highest buyer. These companies who own the internet have gained so much political power that they can silence the United States president, regardless of how you feel about those actions, or the real thing to notice here is the power that they have. And I don't think anybody would dispute that. Many of us at Arisen have been incarcerated. Our freedoms were stripped away from us. This is a hard thing for us to talk about because it was so damning, and it hurt. It hurt us. It hurt our families. But we are able to do something now that they never saw coming. We experienced, the funny word we always use for it is the injustice system. So, we experienced this, hard at work. And in fact, some of us are still sitting in these 8x10 concrete boxes. And for as many of y'all that know anything about our company, Jared Rice Sr. is one of those prisoners, a literal prisoner. The decentralized web wasn't necessarily his idea, but he was the brainchild behind the D-Web and the way that it works. He was stripped of those rights because he tried to change the financial system and he made a lot of enemies. Enemies that could fabricate a story that threaten his life. It's been hard. It's been hard. He's been there working on the D-Web. In fact, he's got over 1,000 pieces of notebook paper writing this code every day so that we, as this community, could move into the future. A future that wouldn't be owned by big tech companies. Jared is not a criminal in the eyes of his friends and his family. He's a humble, generous, funny, very intelligent guy. Like, I could go on for a while talking about how amazing he really is, but in the end, which hopefully should be soon, he will emerge from all this strife with more passion and more drive than when he went in. He's realized the bigger picture. When he tried to change the financial institution, he wanted a better system. But he knew, and all the people at Arisen know, how best to serve humanity. This is an ecosystem that we've created that empowers the people. We aren't starting some fight, but we are offering a real solution for the internet's future. One of the things that we think about is when our forefathers wrote the Constitution of the United States. It used to be when a president wanted to say something to the masses, he would write a speech. He would say it in front of the largest crowd that he could. Excuse me. And the newspapers would print everything that he said. And not much has changed. Except the news that people listen to is, for the most part, called social media. And it's kind of sad, but they hold the power to silence anyone that they don't want, or anything that they don't want you to say. This isn't news to this crowd. I know it. This talk isn't how. It's not going to be about how powerful these companies are. The previous points were really to illustrate that power and bringing forward the ideas that something has to change. America is being driven by this power that the companies and not the user, their civil liberties are being broken, and they don't have a chance to truly speak. Okay, thank you guys for giving me this platform. I know Derek already kind of mentioned it. So my name is Brady Geyser. I'm representing the D-Web. Okay, so let's cover a couple of things. So I kind of already went over like what needs to happen to correct this corruption of the internet problems, right? So I'm about to go into how we talk a little bit about how our system works. And then I'm going to talk to you guys about how the future of Arisen and what we've got coming next, right? So first thing, let me start. So my catchy little phrase for this is, I guess you could say, the D-Web is making the tombstone for an old friend that wore out his welcome. October 29th, 1969, at that point where login was sent and then it crashed, to sometime in 2021. At the bottom might read, everyone had a great time until we found out that we were being conned out of our data and intelligence. It's mildly amusing to me because I've had so much fun on the internet, as you know, as everyone has been doing for the past 20 years or almost 30 years. But there's more, and we're bringing to the table something that maybe some visionaries have thought about, but it has never expressed itself in such an amazing way. All right. Okay. So some people might be wondering what the D web stands for, and it's an acronym for the decentralized web, right? So initially it was called the distributed web, but with several protocol upgrades, end-to-end decentralization, we kind of created a platform where the user can also facilitate small parts of the internet instead of keeping information on servers owned by big tech companies. So the D-Web, we've created a more secure, hacker-proof, genuinely free internet. The D-Web, nobody owns this. There's no CEO of the D-Web, and trying to get that across to people sometimes is difficult because you always think, hey, a company, somebody's got to be in charge of your main product, your main thing, and that's just not true. It's the D-Web. The D-Web is owned by the people that use it. So the D-Web it's kind of a combination of like peer-to-peer data sharing, which is like really similar to torrents, like the torrent networks, and blockchain, forming this, this decentralized web that we made. So anything that is done on the World Wide Web, the WWW, can be done on the D-Web, albeit on a decentralized, but still the same thing can apply. We can just move it over, but on a peer-to-peer basis, right? So the D-Web removes the need for servers, no IP addresses, these databases and other centralized web services that are typically used by websites and web applications on the World Wide Web. Like the D-Web replaces these things with decentralized options, these peer-to-peer services and protocols, including decentralized networks and their addresses, our own databases, application execution, our own domain names. We've got currency and payments and authentication, and like there's so much more. I'm not going to sit here and name off everything that's on the internet, but everything that you can think of just transitions over. And that gives us a lot of freedom. It's kind of like wanting to do space exploration and then finding a portal to Mars and it's fully terraformed. You walk in and you say, okay, what can we do with this new planet? We know what we did wrong in the old one, but how do we move forward? In the news recently, we've seen Parler, the social media site, and they upset Amazon. And you don't want to do that, especially if you don't have a decentralized web. Because Amazon, their AWS, took it down. And it will probably never be back unless John Matsey Jr. calls us back. We can put him on. But all this action of silencing someone because you don't like what they say is a thing of the past with the D-Web. Throw it out. Let's move forward. Because everyone should have that chance to speak. So the D-Web is downloaded along with its browser on your device, assuming you aren't using VPN. And then you begin to take part. So the data related to the network operations are stored among users of the network. To take the D-Web offline, you would have to take each computer, each thing that is storing data that's pertaining to the D-Web. You would have to take it offline. the more computers that are using the D-Web, the more computers that are storing the D-Web's network-related data, okay, the more decentralized it becomes. What makes the D-Web harder to take offline is what makes anything difficult to take out is spreading it out, okay? And that's all we've done, right? So that's kind of the simplicity. But if one of our users leaves the network or goes offline, their portion of the DHT is transferred to another user. So in other words, the more people that use this, the less load it takes off of everyone else who is storing information on their devices. So we use the D-Web network addresses, okay, which is decentralized. It's a decentralized alternative to an IP address on the internet. Okay, so before I go too much further into this, let's try to think about some words that you might not be familiar with. Okay, so first one is seeders. So I know what it is theoretically, but I had to look it up because I didn't know the exact definition. And seeders are people who have wholly downloaded the file and are now sharing it with other people. Okay. Next one is peers. Okay. And when a user is running on a computer on the D-Web, which other users connect to and transfer data, that's a peer. Okay. And you just heard me say it, the DHT. The DHT is short for distributed hash table. And it's just an extensive it's an extensive database of network addresses shared among the D-Web users. You know, each of the users of the D-Web, by design, stores and transfers portions of their own database. So again, that's that whole idea of spreading it out, right? The algorithm that we have allows the users to store the addresses and all the connection details, right? So it's the same algorithm that allows the DHT to find a particular user when you're storing these peers, right? Or the seeders related to the network addresses, excuse me. So as long as there are users on the D-Web, the DHT will remain online, which means that the D-Web, the network addresses will be located, all along the connection details that are related to the peers who possess the data, like the data that's related to the addresses. Okay, I hope I didn't make that too confusing, but if you need to, go back and watch the video and hopefully it'll make more sense. Okay, so the next one that we're going to move to is blockchain. So I'm sure everybody's heard of blockchain. Some people might be completely confused about it. Some people probably make their own blockchain. It's a really incredible invention. So we call ours the Arisen blockchain, which, for a basic understanding, just know that a blockchain is a database, right? And so, so when the first block is created and new data comes in, a new block is created, but it is chained to the old block in chronological order, right? So the data entered is unchanged. You cannot change it. The entire blockchain is available for everyone to see. We have complete transparency. And we encourage this by exposing the blockchain to everyone who participates with the D-Web. So like you you don't have to know anything about blockchain to create a new block, right? It's written for easy access into the system. So by just making new information or by doing something new, it creates a new block that is chained to the old one that says, hey, this is what's happened, and this is what's changed. So you can always reference back to see if all the information is correct. So when you make a new D website, like, it is added to the blockchain, and again, another block is added, and another piece of that information is changed. The DWeb is highly integrated into our Arisen blockchain for many reasons, including authentication, its ability to allow users to execute small programs. So it has the ability to store data related to those executions. It has the ability to handle financial transactions. And fun fact, our Arisen blockchain is really unlike anybody else's. We made it so simple. So like you could have @Brady. Most of the time, blockchains that are utilized are just dauntingly hard to remember. They're really tough addresses. This is just another point of how we're trying to make things easier to transition over to what we're doing. Any change to the D website must be signed off cryptographically with a private key associated with their public account. All of these actions are stored on the Arisen blockchain. Without getting too technical, just understand that the user's private and public keys are paired with the blockchain, which gives proof that the user is the owner of the account of which the data is being submitted or ultimately changed. We call this a smart contract. So this is not the code that's relating to the social network's actual app. The information that's stored within the D database. I'm just talking about the actions that are made on the site, like a payment or a friend add. Frankly, we don't care about the legitimacy of the app's source code. That's on the creator, right? So the next one is D database. Okay. D database is a protocol built to transfer large data sets in very short period of time. In the case of like live audio or video or streaming, everything appears almost instantaneously. And websites load faster than our counterparts. So the www, everything, or even the dark web, everything runs faster and smoother. The DWeb app or the websites are stored in a specific file like a format within the database feed. So the database related to the files of the DWeb or the website is being hosted by people who view or use it. So like, for example, if you have 5 people and they access a DWeb network address, and then they download the website files, and then these people join the DWeb network addresses, when the user in the future performs an address lookup, they will locate any peers that claim to have data, anything that's related to the website. So all this information is going to come up. In this way, like popular apps and websites can be hosted in thousands or even millions of users. This will help the robustness, making the app and website nearly impossible to remove. you would have to take thousands or even millions of devices that are hosting these D database, the ones that are containing the app or the website files. You have to take them completely offline. We came to the conclusion that it's an improbable task. I'm not going to say impossible because we are humanity. You know, we can do anything. But when you look at this globally, it's just a very slim chance that anything is going to be able to be taken down again unless you collect all of this stuff. Okay, so this is one I kind of get excited about, but this is transactions. And I'm not talking about necessarily payment transactions, but transactions from one thing to the next action. So we can run 3,000 transactions per second, okay, that's a pretty respectable number, but not when you consider that Amazon does 11 transactions per second. Okay, no biggie. There's about 300,000 texts sent every second, 75,000 YouTube videos watched per second, 16,500 Twitter videos watched each second, and about 23,000 swipes on Tinder. You get the point. So 300,000 seems like a lot until you start putting everything into play that goes across the whole internet. So there's thousands, hundreds of thousands, if not millions of actions per second. So we solve these by adding branches. So where each branch can do an additional 300,000. So it's this tree of infinite arisen transaction branches that's already growing. If apps use one of the arisen branches, it would still be subject to the root network and their governance, since the network addresses and the domains associated with the apps are made available by the root arisen blockchain. So again, that's kind of why this tree metaphor is so helpful, because we've got our root, and then you've got everything else that continuously branches off of it. And from those branches can continuously branch off, and so on and so on. The next is usability. The example of the D-Web's resiliency is due to the fact that each D-Web user stores a portion of the D-Web's DHT, which, remember, means distributed hash table. Excuse me. You can think of it like if Mr. Derek and I have downloaded the D-Web and its counterpart, the D-Browser. When we create our own websites separately, both of us would be announcing on the D-Web our network address. At this point, the DHT would consist of these two addresses. So assuming we're the only two on there and we've got these two addresses. The DHT is designed to spread its data across the D-Web's users and always be available in the most ordinary of circumstances. So if I was to store information from my site on my device, and I would store information from Mr. Derek's site, and vice versa. So let's assume that my computer goes offline, power outage, whatever it is. And then, so Derek's computer would pick up the slack for that. And he would store the data for both of us. So in these odd circumstances, assuming we're the only two people on the D-Web, which I don't think will ever happen again, that's long ago. But in the circumstances that I go offline and Mr. Derek goes offline, so does the D-Web. So everything stops with the users. Similarly, if the D-Web has 1 million users and 5 million network addresses, each user would store the data related to a handful of network addresses. So this gives us the added benefit of the more users the DWeb has, the more difficult it is to take offline. The DWeb and all of its files are hosted among the users of the network. I was recently asked by Mr. Derrick, somebody said, if the DWeb is using Amazon servers on the back end, what makes them think that they're safe? Can't Amazon still do to the DWeb what they did to Parler? So if you've been listening and are able to pay attention so far, you should be able to answer this by now. Let me first address the problem with the way that that question was being phrased. The DWeb is nowhere on any servers. The DWeb is 100% hosted among the users. Now, on the very, very front end, yes, you do have to download on the Amazon-based servers. And as much as we'd love to avoid that, the logistical reality of sending flash drives with the DWeb file contained on it, sending it through the mail to everyone who wants to download the DWeb, that's a bit impractical, right? So we could certainly put the download available on the dark web, but that's a little unrealistic as well, since most people probably don't feel comfortable getting on that, nor do most people have the know-how or the basic knowledge of using an onion router. So when the word gets out, really out, and the DWeb becomes commonplace, we will eventually pull away from Amazon services. We do consider this topic to be our only real point of failure. You might be asking yourself, who has access to my computer? It looks like I'm running short on time, so I'll try to push through some of this. The quick answer is no one has access. So when someone says, I want to go to this website, they reach out, and basically the other computer gets a knock and says, hey, do you have this information? The computer that has the website of interest says, yes, I do have this information. Would you like it? The requested computer says, yes, I do. So it sends it over. Now, all this is being done in the backhand, so you don't really see it, all this stuff. But the only thing that they have access to is that piece of information. There is no way to reroute or get out of that request, and that's the only way to access into somebody else's computer. And of course, this is all using that fun little binary computer language. But the point is this: is no one's peeping, no one's hacking. This isn't that kind of service. It's not possible. So let's move on to the next part. Payment. The source code for all the web apps, the websites are all open source. Developers must use decentralized payment forms such as like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Monero, Doge. Like all these blockchain-based cryptocurrencies will work with the DWeb apps and the websites. So platforms like PayPal, they require you to integrate with their API, which is their application program interface. This integration requires a secret key to be placed on the source application. And since the code for DWeb is completely open source, all these secret keys would be exposed to the public, and they're not cool with that. So, we're okay with not using PayPal. Our RIX, our Arisen RIX, works better anyways. It works better for our DWeb. So we developed a D-Wallet, which uses our cryptocurrency. Like I said, it's Arisen RIX. We're developing this a little bit further, the wallet. kind of together so that your wallet will be able to maintain all of the other cryptocurrencies that we accept. Anything that doesn't require an API, the API key. RX is the preferred method of payment while using the DWeb. Like, it's highly integrated into the DWeb. Our currency allows for a better experience. Say, for instance, there's some kind of fraud, right? So you try to buy something, you give the guy money, he doesn't send it. You can show proof that the fraud is there. With the RAX, we can reimburse you. It makes it so much easier. We can't do that with Bitcoin. We can't do that with some of these other ones. So it gives you that added advantage of the currency being backed by something. Okay, let's move on to the governance. I feel like that's pretty important. So we have 21 governance members. Every minute, there is a new democratic election process happening. Arisen's governance ensures that 51% takeover is never possible without the Arisen blockchain's users approving this. So it's completely a community-ran operation. At any moment, you can view the DWeb's currently elected governance members in the D wallet for the desktop. There's an easy voting interface. If you would like to become a part of the governance, just simply download it, install Arisen, go to the wallet, and announce yourself. It'll kind of walk you through the steps if you're interested. So the governance, their big purpose is to answer the call for a removal of something. So usually it's a legal activity on the DWeb. Arisen has its own built-in reporting system. So everything's powered by these smart contracts I talked about earlier. See, that's where everything kind of ties all together is on this. So all DWeb apps have this integrated with a report system so that their users can report illegal content to this global reporting system. User interfaces are being built around the reporting system so that the entire DWeb apps and websites can quickly be reported for any illegal content or activity that's out there. Now look, of the 21 governance members, a threshold of 15 governance members must vote to keep or ban a website. The DWeb's DHT is what makes the banning all possible. We can skip past this. Okay. I want to make it clear, though, that we are very liberal when it comes to what's allowed. We built this system to protect your First Amendment rights. This is obviously the most crucial thing for our American forefathers that wanted to keep. That's the most important thing that they wanted us to keep. Sure, the other amendments were important and very essential too, but this one keeps an honest discourse. To say you want someone silenced, keeping a conversation is vital to the health of any country, any organization. I can go on and on, as I'm sure all of you could as well, about how important keeping the conversation open is. But there is a line. We don't believe in harming or exploiting anyone. After that, you've crossed the line. An easy, quick removal, for example, would be like child pornography or some other kind of illegal offense, like drug trafficking. And all this is covered on our Constitution. As soon as you sign in, It says, hey, here's our Constitution. Do you abide by this when you come in? It's very simple. Give everyone their rights. Don't hurt people. It's not in some BS lawyer terminology that very few people can actually understand, and we just want you to click past it just so you can continue on to the next page. That's not what we're doing. That's not what we want. We want you to look at these and say, you know what, this is a system that I agree with, and they have a strong moral backbone.
Hey, Brady, I want to thank you so much for joining us. It sounds like you guys do like a social contract and everything. We got to move on to the next steps in the production, but man, a lot of people are really blown away by the implications that the D-Web has. And it's a readily available technology right now, right?
Absolutely. Yep. It is ready for download. Now, if anybody watched my talk with Derek before, you guys know that it's not perfect, but it will be. It is. We're constantly fixing the kinks and moving forward. It's
excellent.
It's coming. I mean, it's here. The future is here. We just got to join.
Cool. And what's the best website on the centralized web that people could access and learn more about what you guys are doing?
That is objectable, but I feel like peepsx.com is the easiest. It's got everything you need up top. Just kind of keep clicking on stuff. Just keep finding new things, because there's a lot of information in there. And if you click on a dead link, check back next week. Check back in 2 weeks. We're bringing it forward. It's coming.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us and spending some time with us, Brady. Wow, man, I know that a lot of this technical stuff when we go on the technology day can be a little bit confusing or like over some people's heads, but like Jeremy was saying earlier, you don't have to understand how your car engine works to feel good about driving your car, right? And just to sum up, essentially what the work that they're doing is, instead of having centralized servers that host information that you access through the internet, it takes that information, it distributes it and decentralizes it, so it's much more resilient and resistant to censorship. It can't just be shut off because Amazon thinks it's a bad idea or Google thinks it's a bad idea. This is the wave of the future, whether it's currency, information, internet websites. It's a very beautiful thing, and freedom is definitely winning because this technology, the cat's out of the bag and there ain't no putting it back. So we want to thank you for tuning into the Greater Reset Day 4. There's still much more to come, so stick around. We'll be right back. And we're back. All right, folks. Hey, check out this really sweet shirt I got. Man, it's a good looking guy. It's a good looking shirt. You can't lose. You can get this shirt and one with the Greater Reset logo at thegreaterreset.org/shirt. thegreaterreset.org/shirt. All the profits will go to support the Freedom Cell Network and the Greater Reset. All right, this next speaker we're going to be hearing from, he is a friend of mine, and he has just been all over the place when it comes to cryptocurrency, decentralization. I really appreciate the work that he does because it all centers around decentralization. And there's this dichotomy: centralization, World Economic Forum, globalists, New World Order 2.0, and decentralization, cryptocurrency, D-Web, Freedom Cells, decentralized social organization, and it's a very beautiful thing. He co-founded Decentranet, which is an institution that provides financing and support for blockchain startups, all sorts of cool stuff. They do work with the startup societies as well. We're going to be talking about decentralized communities and alternative social governance tomorrow. And he also hosts the D10E conference. And this guy's a master networker too. He's somebody that's really good to know because he'll put you in contact with just about anybody for just about anything. So we're super pleased to have Matt McKibben. He's going to be talking to us about encryption, practical steps that you can take in your daily lives to have more privacy on the internet. Thanks for joining us, Matt.
Thanks so much for that amazing introduction. I really appreciate that, John.
Right.
And it's great to be here on the Greater Reset. What's funny, you have the Greater Reset. I have a T-shirt that says the World Economical Forum, the most economical forum in the world. It was kind of like a pun. So I thought of that when you did the Greater Reset. It's because the World Economic Forum is not very economical, as you might imagine. So I'm Matt McKibben. Very nice to meet you. I've been in the blockchain and cryptocurrency space since 2013. I kind of learned about that from the Ron Paul movement and understanding central banking and all of the bailouts and everything there. And it really drove me into this type of activism where I really care about economic freedom and self-sovereignty and eventually data ownership and understanding exactly how much data we're producing as people. I've got my own your data t-shirt on here today. And today is, International Data Protection Day, or Data Privacy Day, if you will. So I'm really pleased to be able to give you this, data ownership 101 talk. And so let me share my screen and make sure that this will work properly. I tested it out. So let's see, is that working properly there? All right, cool. And I will do the view 2%. Okay, cool. Awesome. So the title of this talk is Dance Like No One Is Watching, but Encrypt Like Everyone Is. And happy International Data Protection Day. You've met me, so let's move on to the next one. All right. So to start out, just to kind of comprehend how big this market is, data in 2017, The Economist wrote an article that basically said data has become the world's most valuable resource. It's no longer oil. It's no longer the energy market in that sense, but data. And that was, 4 years ago now? And as you can see on the slide, they have these oil rigs represented by the large data companies, Amazon and Google and Facebook, and even Tesla and Uber are there, because the whole business model of these companies is to collect as much data as humanly possible, or as robotically possible, if you will, on you. And there's exponentially more data that's coming out about you. We have new devices in our thing. They vacuum up as much data as they possibly can. It's their entire business model. And it's the reason why a lot of their software is free, because you're creating a ton of amount of value for them and you are the product in a large way. I want to give a big kind of shout out to Shana Zuboff, who wrote a book called Rise of Surveillance Capitalism, and basically about these types of business models that were initially supposed to just improve the product incrementally from the amount of data that they're collecting. And it became something completely different. It became just total surveillance of what we're doing and pure profit off of surveilling everyone and everything. So if you haven't had a chance to read that book, I would go out and check it out. It's really interesting. So what are some of the types of data that people produce? I mean, everyone's got a phone in their pocket and it's got a microphone on it and it's got your location data and it's measuring every single click and point and scroll that you're doing. You've got cookies on your browsers. You've got pixels from Facebook that's tracking you all over the internet. We have more and more types of Internet of Things or IoT devices. As you can see, you've got the Google Home, Siri, Alexa. I mean, everyone kind of has had that moment where they have a conversation about a random thing, and then you start to see ads about that thing. And it's because it's listening to you all the time. It's collecting all of your data. Location data, every single place that you go, every single person that you interact with when you're close to them. Shopping data, loyalty card, think about all the things that you do on Amazon, political data. What are your political beliefs? What are you paying attention to? Who do you support? And this is just some of the types of data there. I mean, everything that you do is data in the world and it's exponentially growing. So I want to talk a little bit about the past 10 years about kind of has this amount of data creeps into how much data is being collected, creeps into the cultural conversation and what's going on. So Snowden revealed that a number of different things, but the public became aware for the first time just how much data was being collected on people. And basically one of the biggest things there was the PRISM tool, used by the NSA was collecting all of the electronic data belonging to users, could access your email, can access your Facebook, your Gmail. And it was the latest evolution of the post 9/11 electronic surveillance that President Bush did under the Patriot Act, and then Obama and Trump and everyone continued in there. And they were doing it with the Intelligence Service Act, like the private courts. He wasn't even understanding what was going on there. So another really big monumental thing that happened in the past, 3 or 4 years was the Cambridge Analytica data scandal. And this really showed how much data that Facebook had onto you, and then what the data was being used for. And in this case, Cambridge Analytica was using it for political advertising. So they could really understand exactly what would make you tick, or what would make you go out to the polls, what would maybe deter you from going to the polls, which would be voter suppression. And so this scandal really brought into the cultural consciousness the privacy and social media's influence on politics. And it sparked the Own Your Data movements and the Delete Facebook. They made The Great Hack, which was a viral Netflix documentary. And then Brittany Kaiser, who's also my partner, wrote the book Targeted. And she was one of the whistleblowers of Cambridge Analytica, and really just showed exactly what they were doing and how they were manipulating everyone. So what did we learn from these types of revelations? We learned what data was being produced, who was collecting it, what is it being used for, and that we're not being compensated, even though it's the most lucrative industry on the planet. What do we want to move forward? How do we want to control our data moving forward? We would want transparency, like what is being collected about us and where is it being stored and how is it being stored? We want to be able to opt in and consent in some way to the data being collected on us. And then if we can get paid for the data that's being collected on us, if we can opt in and consent, we could potentially have a monetization model, a data dividend potentially. And this would most likely be mediated by a blockchain and cryptocurrency network, because you can do international payments almost for free. And this data in itself, it could potentially be something that provides universal basic income or universal earned income, which is what I like to say more than the basic income, because there are a lot of people, billions of people, in fact, that are living on $1 a day. And if some of this data is worth $10 a day, perhaps this could help solve world poverty. If you're going to be collecting the data anyway, at least let people opt in, consent, and then get paid for what they're doing. As we collect exponentially more data as well, they could be getting paid more. So in the recent news, we've had the WhatsApp data, or the WhatsApp terms and conditions change. So I'm imagining that most of you, when terms and conditions come up on some sort of piece of software, you don't actually go and read all of those pages. And I would imagine that 99% of the people on the planet that actually, even if they did read them, they wouldn't understand them. It's all in legalese. And so you're not really consenting to something if you don't understand it, you're not reading it. You wouldn't read, if someone handed you a contract, you wouldn't just go and sign the contract without reading it. But that's basically what these companies are doing. So, before the Wall Street bets stuff going on, which is like the newest craze everyone's talking about, this WhatsApp terms were really, really going viral on the planet. And so this chart, you don't have to read the bottom part here, but kind of shows how much data the app has on you when you use it. So Signal is the best one. It has no data link to you. iMessage has a couple of different things. WhatsApp has a moderate amount of stuff. And then Facebook Messenger pretty much just has as much possible things as they can collect on you. And so with these change of terms, there was a website called 9to5Mac that put this out. And basically they said that the column 3 turns into column 4 when these conditions are changed over. So they're going to have so much more information on you. It's still potentially, end-to-end encrypted, they say, but they have a lot of information on you. So with that, there was a public awareness and backlash around this. And, Elon Musk tweeted, use Signal. He's been doing a lot of Twitter activism lately. And Signal, hit like 50 million installs on the Play Store within a week of that. So it even says data privacy for the win. So amazing that this is entering into the cultural consciousness and people are actually paying attention. So what can we do now that we know and understand like how much data is being produced and it's exponentially growing? What can we do to fight back? And so I'm going to give a number of different easy to use tools that if you haven't checked out yet or you're curious about, you can go and search for yourselves, as well as a couple of different projects that I'm personally working on in the blockchain and data ownership space. So messenger apps. So the ones that I was taking a look at, Signal, we know it's encrypted end to end. It's open source, and it's the most popular one. It's a nonprofit organization that's running it as well, the Signal Foundation. And I believe that even coming up soon, there may be a potential for transferring cryptocurrencies through it, through a project called MobileCoin. Threema is another one. I'm not that familiar with it, but it's open source, it's end-to-end encrypted, and it came highly recommended from a number of different sites that I checked out. Telegram, I'm not a fan of Telegram that much. I really don't like the app. I don't like the UI. It says that you can have encrypted chats amongst individual people. The group chats are definitely not encrypted and can be read by whoever's running the app. So a lot of people say it was created by these Russian hackers, and that all the Russian oligarchs can see what you're writing. So just be careful on that one. VPNs are another amazing tool that you can use to hide your traffic and be private. So it's a virtual private network, allows you to create a secure connection with over another network over the internet, and is used to be like region restricted websites. So if you wanted to be placed in Canada and that's where your IP address is coming from, you would do that. A lot of people in China obviously use VPN so that they can actually see what's going on or in the rest of the world. What do you want to look for in a VPN? The number of servers that it has is a really big thing. The location of the servers, where they based, so that if they were to have the state come after them, do they have strong privacy laws in that jurisdiction? And then the privacy and logging considerations. Are they keeping logs of your activity? What info, how long, and where is it stored? So the ones that I've seen and recommended, Proton VPN is really good. I use ExpressVPN. They don't keep any logs. They're in BVI, and they have a tremendous amount of servers. BVI has a really good privacy jurisdiction. NordVPN came highly recommended. And then Tor browser. So a lot of, this was, back in the beginning of like the dark network markets and everything, Tor was the gold standard. A lot of people say that a lot of the like federal agencies run Tor nodes now, and it's not safe. And then there's a new one out, Orchid, which is a decentralized one that incentivizes you to run nodes with its own cryptocurrency. And so I wanted to put that one on there because I do like the decentralized ones wherever I can get them. Data privacy, encrypted email services. As I mentioned before, open source, end-to-end encrypted, and two-factor authentication if you can get it, because otherwise if they can get your password, they can get in. Proton Mail is one of those based in Switzerland. Tutanota, I had not heard before, but open source, end-to-end encrypted. And then Librem One was one that I saw, and they have a whole suite of different tools that plug into their Purism, or Purism built it and plugs into their like fork of Android that's been de-Googled. So that was a really interesting email and other services that I found. Browser search engines. We've got, Google's tracking everything you do on the internet. When you use Chrome, when you search, they're just tracking absolutely everything. So alternatives for search and browsers, Brave browser actually pays you to see ads with their BAT token. DuckDuckGo is a good private search. And then Presearch just came out with their decentralized search engine yesterday, this week. And they allow you to help run the nodes, to run the search engines. and you get paid for searching on there. So shout out to Colin Pape of Presearch. I really love their app as well. Social media. So I know that this has been in the news a lot with Parler being shut down and with people being censored all over the place. There's a lot of them coming out and they're saying that they're decentralized and they care about your privacy. And I think a lot of them will, but I don't know what's going to rise to the top kind of thing. What to look for it, privacy built in. A lot of them say they have no ads, so they're not selling your data to advertisers. Many of them, like Voice, will pay you for your content. And then decentralized, are they built on a blockchain in some way? I don't think that a lot of the blockchains have really scaled to that level yet. But given the censorship that's gone on recently and the problems with content curation and fake news, I really think that there's going to be some open source social media protocols that come out for content creation. And we're going to be able to see apps built on top of that. And I don't know that it's going to look anything like the traditional ones out there. But I firmly believe that there will be something built on top of a public blockchain, maybe Cardano. Charles Hoskinson has been doing a number of really good videos on YouTube about this. He's a brilliant thinker and mathematician and one of the founders of Ethereum and now Cardano. So check out some of his stuff on there. And then, of course, Float. A big fan of Float and what they're doing over there. Password managers, I figured I'd throw this in because if you don't have a strong password, then your accounts are going to get hacked and it doesn't matter that you're encrypting anything anyway. So these are the three main ones that I had seen. I've used LastPass and 1Password before that are secure. So you want to have a long and complex password and you want to have two-factor authentication. Ideally, a YubiKey is really good. A piece of hardware device for your two-factor is the best kind. Otherwise, you can have the like Google Authenticator or Authy to get that second code. Here we go. So I wanted to mention a couple of the companies that I am working with that are building next generation products. So memory.cloud, you can sign up for the beta there. They're going to be released probably sometime in the summer. But basically, Memory is your own personal online data store. You can port all of your information from all the different services into one. Data can flow bidirectionally and can be posted onto other networks. And then through that, this is encrypted. You can store it on a decentralized kind of server. You can store it at home, and you can really, through machine learning algorithms, and you'll be able to really understand what's going on in your world with all of your data, and then get insights on different parts of it, as well as they'll be able to privately understand the insights from everyone's data on all their pods without breaking their privacy. So definitely check that out. Threefold Tech is a decentralized compute and storage layer. Basically, it's the largest decentralized cloud storage on the planet at this. I think it's over 100 petabytes and 22,000 CPU cores. But basically, they're building a serverless architecture for decentralized compute and storage. They have devices all over the world, and they're growing very rapidly. They're actually raising a round to scale right now. So for accredited investors that are interested in that, you're welcome to chat with me and we can chat more about that. And then the Own Your Data Foundation, I've been working with Brittany on this, but we need to really empower the next generation to understand and improve their digital intelligence. So their DQ, if you will. You have your IQ for your regular intelligence, your EQ, and you have your DQ. So things that you can teach your kids, and they have classes at the Own Your Data Foundation that will be going out to elementary schools and eventually high schools. They talk to you about your data rights, your cybersecurity, online ethics, how to be an ethical person online, effective communication, and then technology proficiency. So really proud of Brittany and what they're doing there, because we really need to teach the next generation how to use these types of technologies and be intelligent on the internet. So that's the end of my slide presentation. I'm really, really happy to have been able to present this tonight. Hopefully you learned something. My email is matt@decentranet.com. Twitter, you can tweet at me there. And yeah, Decentranet's our firm, and we help early to mid-stage blockchain and psychedelics companies grow. You gotta have the psychedelics, the sovereignty of mind and finance there. So I'm happy to answer some questions on here. I can stop sharing my screen, and if there's any poignant questions, I don't know, John, if you're moderating that, or if I can look at the comments here.
Yeah, we'll feed you some questions. I think Derek Bros actually had a question, if he can chime in, and then go ahead and folks post your questions in all caps, having to do with privacy, encryption, all that good stuff.
Great.
All right. Hey, Matt, thank you so much for sharing with us today and all the information you brought in there. I had one question. I know that you're a big fan of Signal, and I think many of the people in this room and people watching at home who do pay attention to privacy and data security when it comes to messaging services are probably familiar with Signal and the protocol in open whisper systems. So my first question, I guess it's a two-part question. First is, what are your thoughts on the kind of, I guess, more recent app Session? And on top of that, after your thoughts on Session, what are your thoughts on, I'm not sure if you know the journalist Yasha Levine, who's written the book Surveillance Valley, that does a lot of great research documenting how most of the tools that we use, including the internet, do have a history coming from the intelligence community. And so he recently wrote a piece about a week and a half ago with the kind of surge of interest in Telegram and Signal, saying, hey, I think you should be a little skeptical because of some of the original funding having relations to the NSA and things of that sort. So your thoughts on Session, and then anything you want to say on that whole Signal situation?
So I'm not that familiar with Session in itself. I would love to take a look at it. And that says a recent it's a recent app or a recent protocol.
It's a new one. Like in the last month or so, I've heard of it.
Is it open source?
Yeah, it's built on the same protocol as Signal, but they claim to have extra layers of security.
Okay. No, yeah, I don't know that much about it, and I would love to take a look at it, and would love for ultimately the community of hackers to vet it. That's the benefit of open source, is that you want everyone to be able to try to break it, right? And that's how you try to trust something. And then, I know that some of the best tools that we use today definitely came from the intelligence services, GPS, and a lot of the Google Maps stuff. As far as I know, the encryption still can't be broken on PGP and all those types of things. So, if they can, then they can break a lot of other types of encryption. And I would imagine that some of those teams are still safe, but who knows what they've got running in the background. And then do we want to do other questions? Do you want me to just read some off, or how do you want to do this? I can't hear you.
Aha! That was, again, the NSA, man. They're just all over. What do you look for in a solid cryptocurrency project, and what are some red flags that cause you to run the other way?
Solid cryptocurrency project. I really like projects that have a successful team that have been in the industry prior, or some successful exits, like other investors or advisors. I like, with the token specifically, if you're going for a utility token in general, that you really understand what will happen. Like, you can't be like, the value of this is going to go up crazy because XYZ. That makes it kind of a security. So understanding there. I really like things that are forking some of the DeFi projects now that are DAOs, because that's where the real innovation is going on. Some of these projects are going from what would take, an entrepreneur is like, I'm going to go raise money and I'm going to go build this and I'm going to go exit sometime. We're seeing these DeFi projects get, and that would take like an entrepreneur would take years to kind of do that. We're seeing a DeFi project go from like nothing to like launching and having hundreds of millions of dollars locked in it in a month. And the pace of innovation there is just staggering. So anyone that's playing in the DeFi stuff, I really like that specific. And then anyone that's ensuring, data sovereignty and decentralized ownership of your data, or I think I really like those.
Excellent
questions.
I'm not seeing some solid questions.
Okay.
But I got another one. Do you have any, can you just kind of riff on the balance between privacy and convenience? Because like I'm a father, I'm an entrepreneur, super busy. My game isn't that tight when it comes to encryption. I still use Gmail. I've been wanting to set up a Proton Mail, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes I use Google search because I do DuckDuckGo or the alternatives, and the stuff that comes back isn't as satisfying as what I'm looking for. So do you have any insight or advice for people that are struggling with that balance between convenience and privacy?
Yeah. I mean, right now, the best tools are definitely in the people with the most data, and that's going to be the way it is for a while. But if you want to cognizant, like if you want to have start de-Googling yourself in some way, you can start by, trying one service out here and there. The most convenient things are definitely going to be the ones that are collecting a lot of data right now. But I think as new projects come out soon, and more of this comes into the cultural context, there will be things that will be as useful in the future that you'll be able to use. I use Google. I still use Gmail too. It's okay.
We'll let it slide. We should be ashamed of ourselves.
I have a Proton Mail too. I just, I use them for different things.
Okay, and then just to recap, so what's your opinion on the best encrypted email service?
I really like Proton Mail. I've been using that for a while, but I think the other ones, like I said, I did a lot of research. They're open source, they're encrypted end to end, and a lot of them use the ones that use PGP or GMPG. The ones that use the open source kind of PGP models are definitely very secure.
We got man. Search engines. What search engine do you like?
So I really love Presearch. They just came out with a new and decentralized one. DuckDuckGo is all right. I mean, I still use Google. I still have some of that Google stuff. You just got to be able to know for Google, it has all the ads on the top, right? It's hard to see what's actually up there for real and what's not. But check out Presearch if you haven't tried it out, and you get paid to search. So,
what about your favorite browser?
I use Brave. I'm on Brave right now.
Yeah.
But I would imagine that there will be some competitors to Brave at some point in the future. But Brave works like Google for me. I mean, you have all the same add-ons and extensions. It works really well. It also, for me, it doesn't take as much of my RAM, and I get paid to browse. It's not that much money. Maybe it's like $20 a month, but it's that's a lot of money to some people, and get you a meal.
Yeah, it's better than no money. Okay, one more question. This is a good one. One big issue is how to leave your assets to your family after death. Some encryption make it almost impossible to access it. How to go around that?
Yes, this has been a problem in the cryptocurrency space since the people started looking at it. You can definitely, if you have trusted family members, you can write down your 12-word or 24-word seed codes and put it into, a safe, fireproof safe there. And then I believe that there are going to be some, if you have a lot of assets, you can pay for those types of services that will figure it out, give the copy of everything to a trusted, legal power of attorney there. But it's really hard because they could go steal it if they wanted to. And so, that's the trust thing. So I think Pamela Morgan is someone that has been talking about this since really 2015, 2016. She used to talk, hang out a lot with Andreas Antonopoulos. And I bet she has a lot of this on her blog. So Google Pamela Morgan and Bitcoin.
Awesome. Well, right on. Hey, I want to thank you so much for spending this time with us. I think you really shared a lot of useful, practical information that people can use and implement in their lives. Thanks so much, Matt.
Really?
All right. All right, ladies and gentlemen. You got some bros?
Yeah,
Anti-bros
man.
live free.
Thank you, Matt. Everybody want to give a round of applause to Matt for that information. Lots of useful tips.
Do it.
I really hope everybody who is listening around the international community does take in those tips. Some of these conversations today, we're dealing with a lot of technical things that is a foreign language to some of us and is really familiar for others. So I do invite you to, of course, watch the clips tomorrow. Tomorrow we'll have them all uploaded on our Odyssey and Float channels, of course, and you can find them there. You can find them through our website. So the next two speakers, the last couple speakers for this evening, I'm excited about this because they are here in person in Ziwa with the rest of our community here. And they're going to continue this discussion on decentralization, on blockchain, on how we can use technology in a liberating way. And I before we get into the next speakers, I did want to kind of just pose some questions out there because clearly I am a person that embraces technology. I use technology for the great tool that it is. But I also do have kind of my own limits and boundaries. Like I don't carry a cell phone. I don't use a cell phone because it's one of my personal decisions to keep me from being plugged in so much, right? I just, there's certain things I eschew and try to avoid. And I want to start having that conversation as well, right? Because we're talking about privacy and we're talking about decentralizing social media and the internet itself. We also have to ask ourselves, in what role are we playing in this whole thing? Because we do play an active role one way or the other. So if we're putting Amazon Echoes in our homes and Alexas, and if we're putting doorbell cameras in our neighborhoods, they might seem useful. But if you've seen any of my journalism on this, I've been researching it for years. Just as an example, briefly, Amazon has created this facial recognition software called Rekognition. It's spelled with a K, R-E-K. And they've been selling it to police departments all around the country. At the same time, people are installing the Ring doorbell camera, which is now owned by Amazon, and other similar doorbell cameras. And at the same time, the police departments around the country are starting to ask neighbors to voluntarily let the cops feed into those cameras. So you might be on the opposite side of your street and the police could be feeding into your neighbor's doorbell camera. And now imagine as all of those doorbell cameras are getting connected to police databases, government databases, and then you add Amazon facial recognition software on top of them. I mean, we are building the surveillance state. In a lot of ways, we are the ones contributing to it. Yes, it's voluntary, but we need to think about that maybe every time the latest new tool and gadget comes out, whether or not it's worth losing more privacy, because at the end of the day, we do have the power to shape how much information we give away and how much we choose to keep close to our chest. And in our digital world, we're constantly, giving information away. That's why we're on email lists and all these different things. And it can be very dangerous as we're starting to become more aware. So I just want to get those thoughts out there, really thinking about what role technology plays in your lives, which ways are good and positive, and which ways maybe we need to make adjustments. So I'm going to go ahead and bring up a recent friend, somebody who I'm getting to know lately, who is a really brilliant mind and has some great ideas to share with you guys. He is here tonight representing the Governor DAO team, and he's going to talk to you all about DAOs, which are decentralized autonomous organizations, and how they can be applied not only for the system and the kind of network we're building, the Freedom Cell network, but for your businesses or for your family or your relationships or your office, whatever it may be. He's going to talk to us about a lot of these exciting ideas, and we're going to hear more. Please welcome to the stage Ark from Governor DAO.
Awesome. Well, I think he might have just did a better job than I did. So, all right. So I'm going to talk about decentralized autonomous organizations and how that all modern businesses and organizations in the future will all go this direction for a better decentralized future. So what is a DAO? A DAO is an organization that's free from centralized control. So since a DAO is on the blockchain, it's decentralized by nature, and it's not governed by one centralized entity. So it cannot be shut down and it cannot be stopped. Another powerful part is that it's autonomous. So it uses smart contracts that work automatically to execute the code. And the organization part is it's governed by its own set of rules, and you can decide the rules of the organization to different kinds of participation on voting. So the main thing is DAOs are you get a governance token, and that is your vote. So if this was like an election that you wanted an honest election, then a DAO is going to be one of the best places that you can utilize this, because your vote actually counts. So like let's pretend like the U.S. government wanted to do an actual legit election. So they would give an address to every single person with a social security number, a vote token. Everybody has one vote token, okay? And everybody that's alive and currently would be able to would get this token. Then you would just go on the internet. You can choose like A, B, or C, whatever. But your vote gets signed on the blockchain and is immutable, and you can't take it off, and it ensures a fair election. This is just one example of how decentralized voting can happen on the blockchain. DAOs also, like I said, they're autonomous because they execute smart contracts automatically. So there's no need for a middleman to do anything. It's automatic. So even if businesses do not want to be decentralized, they're all going to go this direction in the future, because it's going to save tons of money, and they're not going to have lawyers, CEOs, CTOs, or anything like that, because the community actually runs the entire project. So the community members have all the power. So the people actually get the power. So this governance token that all DAOs have are immutable, and they're recorded on the blockchain forever. So proposals on the blockchain, basically the direction that you want the DAO to go, the community votes for this. So it's important to educate everybody on exactly what you're voting for, because you can set it up to where however many people need to, like a 50 or 60% need to be passed. That could be a proposal, but no matter what happens, the proposals always get implemented. So the community and organization chooses the direction of the progress, instead of just like a few people in a room, deciding the entire, course of action. A DAO is the community run, so, which is great. So everybody that holds the token has a stake in the network. So you basically own a proportion of the network. Okay, so that's just a little bit about what a DAO is. Now I'm gonna talk about what Governor DAO is and kind of how it started. So Governor DAO was actually started from grassroots community project that was previously another project called CB DAO. And CB DAO was going to try to be the DAO of DAOs. It was going to have a sandbox to where you can try all sorts of governance models, participation to see what works best for, the community. And this project ended up doing a rug pull, and it took everyone's money. And a lot of people lost millions of dollars. So we decided as a community to get together and actually do this ourselves and revive it. So there was a resurrection that happened, and we created Governor DAO from the ashes of another project called CB DAO. So it's community driven and grassroots from the very beginning. And so one way of how these the governance tokens get distributed, because it needs to be a fair distribution, is that there's a thing called liquidity mining, and this is a decentralized finance that we have. So basically, you can mine the governance tokens by depositing or staking them from your wallet. So you can do this by depositing like popular cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Chainlink, multiple others, and then you get rewarded GDAO tokens or governance tokens, and this is your voting power. So this way, there's a fair, even distribution of tokens that runs for like 3 to 4 months, so everybody has a chance to collect these tokens. And this is how voting works with your tokens. So once you get your tokens, you can vote with your tokens with a snapshot that happens at a certain time. It takes into account all of the tokens on the blockchain at the time, and you're able to cast your vote with the power of the amount of tokens that you have. So one token is worth different than 1,000, so it encourages people to hold tokens in the network and the community. You also get rewarded. It encourages participation and good behavior in the community. So you get rewarded in the native governance token. So it encourages you to help out the community and as much as possible in order to reap the reward. So the main thing that's important in a DAO is everybody has a say in a DAO, instead of just, a few people deciding the entire fate of everything. Oh, I was gonna also mention that since this was a community grassroots project, then you can also use a DAO for previously existing communities. So for an example, we can use Freedom Cells for an example. So Freedom Cells could form a DAO, and they could have a cell token for all community members to vote on, and you can also use it for a currency inside of the organization, so you don't have to use the fiat system unless you want to. So we have technologies now that you never have to use the current fiat system ever again. It's a completely decentralized way of life that we've been building. So yeah, so this is just actually a really cool science experiment to see how voting and governance, will work without an actual government and people telling people what to do, because we at Governor DAO, we believe we can govern ourselves, and we don't need dictators telling us what to do. So you can create your own rules and have a legit sort of democracy based on what the community wants. So basically, it's all about what the community wants. Anything that you want to do for the project will get voted on, and then the developers will implement that after it's voted on. So having a say in the direction of the community is pretty awesome. Hey.
All right, can we get a round of applause for Ark being here with us tonight? I have a couple questions, and If anybody here with us wants to ask questions, or anybody online, we'll be watching the feed right now. If you have specific questions, I want to ask you a question, though, brother. So he mentioned that Governor Dow could be used for a freedom cell, and you could generate a coin if somebody wanted to that could be used in different ways. But let's talk a little bit more specifically. In what ways would you say, what are the benefits, or a couple of benefits of choosing to use something like Governor Dow for my freedom cell, my group of 7 to 8 people? What benefits could I gain as far as trust, or maybe other ways using Governor Dow as opposed to not using it? You know what I mean? Like, how could it improve our work together?
So you could use Governor Dow just to be a part of the community. But if you already have an existing community, then you could release it that way. But you would basically be piggybacking on our current existing community, and you can create sub DAOs. We're eventually going to be able to let people make sub DAOs within. So you could have like a sub freedom cell DAO or something like that. But you would be piggybacking off of our existing tokens and our community. So that's pretty much what you would be piggybacking on.
And so by using, because Governor DAO is on a blockchain, right?
Yes, it's on the Ethereum blockchain.
So by using that blockchain, is that going to, like, for instance, in the area of trust, right? If we have a freedom cell of 7 to 8 other people, maybe our first meeting, we decide on what are the principles we're interested in, right? Or the projects or the goals. By using Governor DAO, is there a way we can kind of incorporate that to just have a place that is like like blockchains are, an immutable kind of unchangeable place where we can put our principles or our projects or things like that? Could it be used in that way as well?
Yeah, that's actually what it's intended to do, so all the votes can be looked back on and be accounted for. They're all public. And also what DAOs don't have right now, and what I want them to have, is like privacy layers, because right now there's no privacy on Ethereum pretty much. So a lot of the DAOs are lacking the privacy aspect. But what they do really good at is everything is public as far as votes go, so you can see exactly who voted for what and when, and there's no arguing. It's immutable, so there's no way elections could be, for example.
So like I was correct earlier when I said it could be used by businesses or any type of organization. Yeah. Cool. John, did you have any questions you want to pose? Let's see if we can get John on the screen, or anybody here in the audience have a particular question. I'm not sure how experienced people are with DAOs in the first place. I mean, how long has the concept of DAOs been around? Just a couple of years, right?
Yeah, well, in 2013 actually was the first mention of a DAO, and that was by Dan Larimer. And basically, he didn't come into use of it, but in 2016 was the first DAO, and it got hacked. So DAOs got a bad rap for a long time. Most people didn't want to do it again. But now DAOs are coming back, and mainly because, it's like small businesses and all organizations in the future, if you don't want to be censored and you don't want to be shut down, definitely should look into forming a DAO. And in the future, it's actually going to be a lot easier to create a DAO. Like right now, you have to have a lot of programming and Solidity and stuff on Ethereum. But in the future, then there's tools being built right now to where you can just choose what you want your name to be for a DAO, and then you push a button, and then bam, you're going to have a DAO. So this is in the works now. Eventually, this technology is going to come out to where anybody can form a DAO and be on the blockchain.
I have a question for you. Can you share a little bit more about that tale of what happened with that original DAO? It was a big smart contract. People put millions, tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of dollars. It was on the Ethereum blockchain, and then it got hacked. Although maybe there was just an exploitation in the smart contract. And then Vitalik Buterin, I don't know if he had consensus when he did this. They actually rolled back the Ethereum blockchain and basically undid that, which defied the whole principle of something being immutable, which is you can't go back and change things. Can you riff on that a little bit, and maybe as a cautionary tale, share what a crypto community or a community can do to avoid that? Was it just Vitalik had too much power in Ethereum, or what's that all about?
Yeah, that instance, that was Vitalik. So like if we wanted to do something for our DAO, since we're built on Ethereum, we couldn't fork that or anything ourselves. So that was because of the position that Vitalik was in, that he was able to do that. And I think that's also why Ethereum Classic split off from Ethereum a long time ago, is because it kind of went against the definition of what a blockchain was supposed to be. A lot of people believed that you shouldn't be able to go back and change things because it's supposed to be immutable by nature. So that was the argument on that and that part. But we couldn't do that ourselves since we're on Ethereum blockchain. That was kind of a special event that happened, and I don't think it can happen like that again because that was early on, and Vitalik had a lot of pull back then.
Let's get a round of applause for ARC with us tonight from Governor Dow. We hope everybody at home who's watching will check out Governor Dow. I really do think that this is probably not just Governor Dow and what ARC's working on, his team's working on, but what decentralized autonomous organizations represent as a threat to power, to central organizations like banks, governments, etc. I think we are really just seeing the beginning of where this concept's going to go. But thank you guys for being with us tonight. We're going to go to a quick break and come back with our last speaker, Ramiro Romani, talking about the aboveground.market. We've talked all about social media and the internet. We've talked about decentralized autonomous organizations. But how do we exchange goods? How do we exchange goods using technology and alternative forms of currency in this digital age? We're going to talk about that next. Stay tuned. We'll be right back for the Greater Reset activation.
Man, we so free. Ziwatanejo, man, it's the place to be. So won't you come along with me. Embrace the sovereignty, decentralization, and liberty. We can do it if we do it together.
All right, what's up, John?
What's up, at D Bros Live Free on Twitter? How you doing?
I'm doing good, man. It's night 4 of the Greater Reset. We're really excited to be here. And I'm excited to have our crowd here in person. We got a lively bunch of people who are glad to be hanging out. I don't see many masks in the crowd. I don't know if I see a one, but we see a lot of free people, so that's cool. And we're happy with everybody who's watching and listening all around the world with their family and friends. We still want to see, this is our last speaker of the night, we still want to see pictures of your watch party. So please send them in to our Telegram channel, our email, our website, wherever you can. We'll try to get them and post them tonight. We've been getting lots of good pictures. Anything else you want to share, John, before we bring on our last speaker?
I'm just curious why you guys didn't bust this camera out before. It looks crystal clear, super sharp.
Thanks, John.
Although you might, I think you on the settings you should be able to take off the display, but it's fine.
We're working on it. We're working on it. Look at this guy.
Hey, kudos to you guys
from Central Texas.
I purposely wanted to be in this studio here because it would be a lot easier. So kudos to you guys for hosting that in-person event. I think with the Great Reset, what they want to do is stick everyone behind their computer for work, for school, for everything, maybe even for pleasure, like in Demolition Man, if anybody's seen that movie. So thank you, Derek, for uniting everybody down there. I think that human connection is absolutely critical, and we can't lose touch of it.
Yeah, I think we're enjoying the human connection out here. Yep. Thank you, guys. And you're really right about that, John. That is one of the reasons. So what we're doing here, they call it in the industry a hybrid event. The virtual streaming to people all around the world, but people being in person and encouraging watch parties. And that was an important aspect of us doing this when John and I were first kind of going back and forth on this idea. It was important to us to encourage people to get together in person because, as he just said, a big part of their agenda is telehealth, telemedicine, teleeducation, everything distance learning, everything online. We don't ever interact in person. We don't ever hug each other or see each other's faces. And that's not the world we want. So we're trying to bring people together. And thank you, everybody who's participating in that. Now, without further ado, we're going to bring on our last speaker of the evening, who is another brilliant mind, as everybody we've heard from tonight. And as far as this project goes, the Greater Reset Activation, the Freedom Cell Network, and our event here, he's one of our all-star, lead team members here. If you've been enjoying the Freedom Cell Network website or the Greater Reset website, if you've recently joined the Freedom Cell Network and you like all the features we have and the way we're trying to make it more interactive, our next speaker is the man to thank for that. He's the person behind the scenes. Please welcome Ramiro Romani.
Hey, y'all. Thanks, Derek, for the great introduction. It's amazing to be out here tonight. I mean, I think it's always interesting. We tossed around the idea of having a conference in person and catching cameras around here. And 2 months later, it really came together. And I think it was beautiful to see the community have both an individual part and come together and create something so beautiful. And I hope people around the world are understanding they can do the same things themselves. So to introduce myself, I'm Ramiro Romani. I've been working with the Freedom Cells team and the Greater Reset for about the past 3 months. And kind of part of that has been getting those properties up to scale, but I've also been working on my own venture called aboveground.market, which will be the first way that you can buy and sell products for cryptocurrency on the surface web. All you need is a web browser and a wallet. It's going to be really cool. So I'm the sole engineer on that, and we're building out a team. So we'll talk a little bit more about that later. Okay, so my talk was originally going to be a lot different than what I ended up today, but week was so busy, and I saw so many different parallels across the different days. And what I ended up on was, it feels like the Greater Reset is a game that we're all playing. And a lot of us are playing it like a prisoner's dilemma. So what do I mean by that? Well, I'm sure you've had these idealistic conversations with your friends about what a perfect society would look like. And when I talk about it to my friends, I always bring up agorism, voluntarism, and anarchy. And I'm always met with resistance because even though these are great people and my friends, they resist the idea because they have a belief about how society works at the global level and also at the micro level. They feel like they know how an individual will act. But unfortunately, they're coming from a perspective which is modeled like the prisoner's dilemma, which is really like us versus them. So just to explain what I'm talking about a little bit, prisoner's dilemma, pretty simple. Two guys get caught for a major crime, but there's not really much evidence on them. There is evidence for a lesser crime. So they're both in the interrogation room, and they have this choice, right? They can either go ahead and they can tattle, they can snitch on their partner in crime, And that way they'll get off scot-free. You know, they won't be in trouble. Or they could cooperate. They could cooperate with their partner in crime and essentially only get charged for the lesser crime. So first of all, am I right when I say that that is a pretty shitty game? It's a pretty bad way to live. Well, I think it's a really bad game. And yet our systems push us to thinking that this is the only model. And that model is actually applied directly. So we see that in Canada already, right? Where people are snitching on their neighbors in order to feel safe. Or so for personal gatherings or calling their phones to their neighbors. And other places in different spheres, now we see this model starting to take shape. Where in China, you know, Christian, who spoke earlier this week, he brought my attention that China basically banned all animal agriculture for over 40 species, and that's, you know, that's millions of people depend on that for their livelihood. And so now this prisoner's dilemma takes place in their communities where they have to decide, hey, am I going to report these people who are just trying to, you know, do their work, or am I going to take the safer option for my own good? So this even applies digitally, right? And now this prisoner's dilemma is popping up everywhere. Look at the U.S. Department of Treasury. We saw, through its influence, cryptocurrency exchanges completely wipe all privacy coins from the market. Just no explanation, nothing. Pulled coins like Monero and Dash, which really can't be traced to individuals, off the market. And they started adding regulations for more privacy. So now, if you have a wallet on an exchange, and you do a transaction for, you know, $3,000 to $10,000, you have to have your identity verified. Not only you, which are part of the exchange, but your counterparty in the transaction. Even if they're using like if they're using a custodial wallet, you know, they're not part of the exchange. They're going to need your identity. They're going to need your partner's identity, and so it puts you in this risky position where you know, you may buy from someone, but they may not get your coins until you actually verify your identity to them. Those coins might be frozen, whatever. So this is a model, that this prisoner dilemma, that we also see in the European Union's new resolution on encryption, which basically they say they're going to collude with large tech giants. And the quote is this: competent authorities must be able to access data in a lawful and targeted manner. And they mean to do that through an encryption backdoor. So it's okay that companies like Facebook, Google, Amazon, they can have their encryption, but, you know, the government just wants a piece of the pie. They want to be able to read the data behind the scenes and get information on the people that they feel are important. So all of these different prisoner dilemmas are playing out on different spheres, and it just feels like we're being forced to make a choice. And that's what I think the premise of the Greater Reset is. We have a choice to continue in this dilemma, in which we join these prison systems, or and we join these prison systems and we try to cut out others who are also trying to escape, or there's a choice to start anew. And maybe that starts by not, you know, reporting your fellow friends and neighbors and people in your community, but taking more of a personal responsibility for our health and freedom instead of just relegating it out to a central authority. And there's even the possibility that if both you and I decide to start anew in this dilemma, that cooperating would lead to a better outcome than the original dilemma, right? You remember the if both prisoners cooperated, you know, there's still evidence for like a lesser charge. What if there's an even better outcome where both you and I cooperate, neither of us get caught, and there's more prosperity for both of us? So that's kind of what I'm going to talk about today. This entire dilemma changes. In this new one, the preferred outcome is mutual cooperation. And this can actually come from a self-interested and rational manner. If we cooperate and we know that the best outcome for both of us is to cooperate, it turns from a prisoner's dilemma into an assurance game, which is kind of a different sort of game theory. So I'll go over the examples once again. You know, if neighbors cooperated together and you weren't worried about your neighbor telling the authorities how many people over at your house, you'd be able to do anything you want at your house. I mean, honestly, that's a right, an unalienable right we've been used to for as long as anyone can imagine until past year. So I don't know what changed. If we had that assurance game, you'd be able to feed yourself and not have to tear down your own agriculture, right? We've had 3 great speakers do a panel on agriculture, and we see that there is attack on animal agriculture and even your own sovereignty to grow what you'd like. So this is all stuff that is coming. Okay. If users of cryptocurrency decided to cooperate with each other against the restrictions, and this form of cooperation with your prisoner actually deals more with refusing to deal with exchanges that are taking down your identity information. These people, in turn, that cooperate would have access to an isolated free market void of restrictions. So obviously, creating this assurance game is easier than some spaces and others. The penalties for not cooperating will get worse. You know, there's fines. Houston, where I'm from, a lot of restaurants are getting large fines for not shutting down. You're getting $250 fines for not wearing your masks. So you are essentially trading risk for profit, which is a fundamental theory of counter economics. But as penalties get worse, the potential for a better system grows alongside it. And me and so many of the people who have spoken today are showing you these better systems. So the choice is yours. Are you going to join or are you going to stay? As someone who is already aiming to cooperate in this new system, I have an incentive through this assurance game to give you the awareness and tools that you need to become fully a part of it. And where I feel most comfortable giving you advice is the digital domain. We have had a lot of speakers too that have given you great advice, so I'll try and keep it short. But when thinking about our own sovereignty, when it comes to not only avoiding, but having complete control and responsibility of your digital presence, you can think about it as a set of layers, which, you know, you also think about the internet and the OSI model as a set of layers. But the most basic being the physical infrastructure itself until it moves up into abstraction to what you might see on your phone screen or your computer screen, right? And there's similar layers that exist for our digital properties and identities and the way we communicate with people over distance, right? As in, there's a whole foundation you need to have if you want to live in a system with free and open digital communication. And part of that is doing the work. So at the most bottom layer, there's obviously the power systems, which feed our phones and computers. I don't really know much about alternative energy, but just be aware that, you know, it depends on power and it's crucial for communication. The next layer is the hardware that powers our machines, processor. The large majorities of CPUs since 1995 have had vulnerabilities. These modern CPU architectures have also allowed for attacks like Spectre and Meltdown, which give attackers access to data that they should not be accessing. So it could be read to use your passwords and encryption fees, and it's considered to affect most types of processor architectures. This is something that's been around for such a long time and is still not getting patched on most operating systems. So the more you inform yourself and educate yourself about your operating system of choice, the better. Most operating systems have installed patches to fix it, which is fix Meltdown, which is the most scarier vulnerability of the two, at the cost of performance. So the next layer after this is the operating system layer, right? What computers do you use? Is it Windows, Mac? Are those the only two choices you have? Well, if you're a Windows 10 user, you should know that in Microsoft's service agreement, they say they will access, disclose, and preserve personal data, including emails, private communications, files, when they believe it necessary to comply with applicable laws. So just putting that out there, right? This is like evil user interaction design, but you're automatically opted in to 28 different categories of data that they're harvesting for you, and you have to opt out, go through all the menus. There's that. There's Cortana, which is built into the operating system itself, and to disable that, you know, you've got to go and disable some registry keys, and it ends up breaking the whole Windows Update system. So it's obviously not designed to really be composable, and the telemetry has like it's a pretty significant portion of the operating system, right? Mac OS is no better. This year, Jeffrey Paul, a software engineer and security researcher, did an article called "Your Computer Isn't Yours," where he showed how every Mac OS registered a unique ID for every application and then sent an unencrypted message to Apple's servers using your IP. So what does that mean exactly? Well, I think we have had several people say it, but they know how you're using your computer, when you're using your computer, and what you're using it for. And it's very immensely powerful. And I'll go into more too, how really all the inputs of your computer can be used in conjunction. Matt mentioned, who talked earlier today, mentioned Prism, which Apple has been a partner of since 2012. That's US police and military can have access to your data without a warrant. They act like, you know, they're against the FBI and fight for user privacy, but the things they've been involved with should give you doubt. There's better solutions out there. I've always encouraged people to use Linux with compartmentalization software. Linux, as the different flavors of Linux are just better as there's open source software, and any new additions to the code at least have some sort of community oversight, and people get angry, and they're just smarter coders looking it over. So you have that on your back. So right now, the two best choices are Whonix, WHONIX, which runs a virtual machines that applications can't break out of. So applications are just forced to communicate through the Tor protocol. There's also Cubes, which runs another environment and a virtual environment. And Cubes is cool because it deletes all of your data when you end the session. So about open source operating systems, so Ubuntu, which is a flavor of Linux, Canonical, the company that creates Ubuntu, they released an update that basically sent global search requests to Amazon, and the open source community found out about it, and they raised the stink of it, right? And they reverted it. So using open source technology over closed source technology is a no-brainer. You don't know what they're doing if you can't see the code. So there's another layer above that, right? We've just gotten to the computer itself and the operating system. What services do we choose to use? How tied are we to Google and Apple and Microsoft Word? I mean, they're good. They're good tools. They're reliable, but we don't need to use them all the time, especially for the things that are personal and important to us. They don't need to know us better than we know ourselves. There's private alternatives, right? You can host them on your own machine, and if you're paying monthly cost, sometimes you can just buy these softwares outright. So you can host something like CryptPad. CryptPad is what we're using for Above Ground Market, and for a few other projects which actually secures all your documents with an encryption key. So no one can see the documents except you and the people you decided to share your encryption key for. If you don't trust CryptPad's central servers, you can obviously host CryptPad yourself. You can use a solution like UnoHost, which allows you to take a server and run a bunch of Office applications on it. It's really cool. There's obviously like a startup cost required and more responsibility needed to run your own servers, but at least you have the sentiment that your data is completely yours, right? So there's also email services. CTemplar is the one that comes to mind. I really like it. It uses a 2048-bit encryption, and it has a no data retention policy. So when you delete the data, it's not cached anywhere, it's not archived anywhere, it's deleted, and it's based in Iceland. And yeah, I really like that company. Do check them out. Lastly, there's your phone, which they're the most compromised devices out of all, and they're with us all the time, so that's scary. Android was sued November of last year. Google, Android Alphabet, was sued after having they did a study of the phones, and they saw that there was passive data retrieval up to 260 megabytes a month without the phone being used at all. So that should send you some warning signals, like why is it sending so much data? The more troubling part was, why was none of that disclosed in any of the terms of service or privacy agreements? Then there's apps like Snapchats, which have taken the center stage. Everyone likes having their face on camera. They love those overlay feeds, which kind of study your facial structure and then create images on top of that. I always get annoyed when my girlfriend, she has us on Snapchat, because I'm like, oh damn, my face is on there. But these cameras, these apps can mine your facial recognition, and not only do they have your face, but they have your emotions when you think about it. Snapchat uses this data to target its ads. When it shows you an ad, if your face is like, oh, what's that? Or it's happy, they can literally tell how you feel about different content things. Now realize that your phone's camera is open all the time. They don't make phones with hideable cameras. They only do it with laptops. OnePlus, which is it's a Chinese phone manufacturer, they used to make a pop-up camera, that went up and down only when you used it. They don't make those anymore. I don't know why it didn't catch on, but it's obviously immensely powerful. If you want to see a demo of this, an independent project supported by Mozilla, you could go to stealingyourfeelings.us. I think that's the URL. But essentially, it's a webcam mic, and they show you a bunch of things, and they're able to perform an emotional analysis based on the data you see. So with that together, everything you browse online and getting your own facial responses, it's scary, because I feel like they might know me better than I know myself, and I don't like that one bit. luckily, there's new solutions for all this stuff. We have alternatives. There's Librem 5, which is a phone that's designed by an independent and crowd-funded team that has an open source operating system and physical switches for stuff like camera, Bluetooth, microphone, wireless internet, even the modem. So, you kind of control when it's communicating. There's PinePhone, right? Which gives you a choice between 17 different operating systems and more kill switches, a removable battery, which, by the way, why don't they make phones with removable batteries anymore? I don't know. But these phones, you are trading more setup for privacy and control, but they do provide alternative app stores like F-Droid, which is actually amazing. I found awesome apps on F-Droid. Man, what's that called? There's this YouTube app. The name doesn't come to me right now, but it kicks YouTube's ass. Like, and it doesn't play ads, right? So going back to the assurance games that I was talking about earlier, when we make the switch to these new systems, we've got to be aware of who is on the old systems. Because if you really want to have sovereignty over your communication, then you can't necessarily communicate with someone who's on the old platforms. And so you have to be very purposeful about that. Communication between those parties might be compromised. So you just got to be very careful about information that you hold sensitive. There's also an additional game with these independent teams that are managing this independent software that's not part of big tech, these phones that aren't manufactured. The more we support these companies, the more we research, the more available and affordable these phones are. So please do your research. Look into Linux alternative phones. And they're quite cheap. They're like $200, $300. When we're paying $1,000 for these flagship phones. So it can be a win-win. Okay, so there's all these things we use to communicate, and finally we're at the top layer. And there's the internet. Obviously, we've had some people talk about D-Web today and the decentralized internet. That's excellent. I think there's technology like mesh networks we need to look more into. I unfortunately did not get to research that part of this talk, but we've covered a lot in the past 30 minutes. Why am I telling you all of this? Well, I want you to be ready. I want you to be ready to join the alternative when it comes out, but even joining requires the operational security. Everyone who spoke today was working on alternative platforms, and we're not competing, we're playing the game of mutual assurance. The more platforms there are, the better for our users, the more competition we're gonna have, we're gonna be pushed to provide the best service. So now I'd like to tell you about my venture, Above Ground Market. We have a very small team. I started this in October after talking with Mike Swatek, who spoke earlier in the session on Monday, I think. And the idea was I saw how great Agorist Market was doing, which, by the way, definitely check it out, agorist.market. You can put your own profile on there and put your crypto addresses and immediately start taking work, right? So it's more like a listing page than it is a marketplace. So what Above Ground Market is it is a full-featured marketplace. What you only need is a web browser and a wallet. So we have principles, right? This year was crazy for cryptocurrency. We have all this volatility. We've reached a market cap of $1 trillion. There's so much perceived value, but where can you spend it, right? I mean, I think it's cool that some people were able to pay for this conference with Monero. I think that was some of the greatest utility I've found yet. But there's still not many vendors that are accepting crypto. Unless you're looking at, like Newegg or a few vendors or crypto collectibles or some independent services, there isn't really a platform where you and I could go on and sell the products of our label for cryptocurrency. So PayPal started accepting Bitcoins as payments this year. Amazon is rumored to be not too far behind. We don't want to leave our only options up to them. So that's why we're starting this. So we have 5 principles at AboveGround.market. The first principle is privacy. We treat you anonymously, and that's a big part of what we do, is owning the infrastructure and the code underneath it. We won't be begging Amazon to turn our servers back on when they don't agree with what we're doing. With this responsibility, we are enabled to protect our users' privacy. We don't use third-party services. We don't collect the IPs, and we don't ask for identification, and we encrypt all the communication on the platform. We want to give users choice, right? Because that's the most important part about all of this is you don't want to be locked in, and we have such a vibrant ecosystem with 2,200 alternative cryptocurrencies. We want to be able to accept them all. So we're launching with some of the most private coins on the market today. We've got Bitcoin, of course, Bitcoin Gold, Monero, Dash, the privacy coins that got unlisted earlier this year. You'll be able to accept it, right? And you'll be able to do so relatively anonymously based on how you have your own computer set up. All we ask for is an email. The third principle is quality. We insist on quality, right? And this way, the vendors go ahead and join our platform. There's no transaction fees, so we're not taking a cut of every transaction, but the vendors pay to actually be on the platform. One of the first crypto commerce marketplaces ever, OpenBazaar, which was based on a decentralized protocol, actually shut its doors, shut its servers down on the day we did our launch. So I don't believe in coincidences. I think that's amazing. But I think one of the reasons was that people weren't ready for a decentralized marketplace yet. So above ground is not decentralized, it is centralized, but it's taking baby steps in the right direction. So with this, we're able to ensure quality because vendors are paying listing fees and they're investing in the products that they sell on the site. If a lot of these agorist marketplaces, they just have products that you may not want to sell. So the goal for it is to have quality products that everyone would want to buy. Empowerment, right? We want you to be able to do your business your own way. So we're providing lots of different choices when it comes to shipping, even in-person pickups, and encrypted messaging all the way through, ease of use. Lastly, self-governing, right? If you've ever used darknet markets, you might remember getting scammed like a whole bunch of times, even if you're buying something nice. So that's one of the main challenges when you're designing something like this is like, how does trust work? So we ourselves, we've designed an escrow system, which even though you don't have a wallet on the platform, the coins are in a holding plate until the buyer actually confirms that they've received the item, and then they get sent to the user. So that is a choice. You don't have to use escrow. You don't have to have us trust us with the escrow. The coins can go straight to the vendor. But the bigger part of that is what happens when there is a dispute. When the buyer said, "I didn't get what I wanted," or the seller says they reneged on the deal, or that. So we're working to having a self-governing marketplace, and to do that, we have to have some level of transparency. And so the choice is yours to raise a dispute, and also have that evaluated by a set of peers, right? Other buyers and vendors on the market. So I think that's very, it's pretty innovative, and we're going to be building this out over the next couple of months. So I do hope y'all stay tuned. I think that's all for me, Derek. If you wanna send me off, thanks so much.
Thank you, brother. So tell everybody the website one more time.
It's aboveground.market.
Aboveground.market, like it sounds. All right. So anybody have any particular questions? For me, I just want to say that I think that this project and our other friend Mike, who was on Monday, his project, agorist.market, right? They're both really kind of bringing to life the counter-economic idea that we were talking about on Monday of how do we trade value outside of the hands of the banks or the governments, and how do we keep the value in our own communities, in our own hands. And some of you may know that right now there's a man, a very intelligent, brilliant mind, who's sitting in prison and was sentenced to 3 life sentences for trying to do something similar in the past. His name is Ross Ulbricht, and he built the Silk Road and was arrested, and his mother has been kind of become a part of this movement over the past few years for trying to promote similar ideas. And I got to report at that trial in New York City, and the judge specifically said when she was sentencing Ross, who is the same age as I am, 36, I was in court watching his parents listen to the sentencing coming down. They accused him of all sorts of horrible things because he built a website. He built a website where people were free to transact, and some of that did include illicit drugs and things of that sort, and they chose to charge Ross with all of those transactions as if he had dealt those drugs or sold this or that. And the judge said, "I'm giving you this sentence to make sure that nobody ever dare takes up your flag." And to me, what that signals is that these people in the system are terrified that we will learn, instead of, like he was talking about it being a game, instead of us playing their game, they don't mind if we vote and we even resort to violence, because they know how to handle that. They're afraid that we get up, we walk away from the game, and we build our own system. That's what Ross was trying to do. That's what Mike and what Ramiro are trying to do. That's what we're all trying to do here. So And it's important to support the people who are doing this. So please do check out aboveground.market, and everybody at home who's listening, one more time for Ramiro. He's been working behind the scenes the whole time. All right, let's bring John back on, and let's say goodnight for the evening. We appreciate everybody who's been here for day 4 of the Greater Reset activation. We still have 2 more nights. We have 1 more night in person here in Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Tomorrow is our community day, and we're going to talk all about community organizing, intentional communities. And I got a couple of friends that are coming tomorrow, and then John actually has his lovely partner who's going to be joining us tomorrow. I'll let him tell you a little bit about Rebecca Powers.
Oh, yeah. She's the best. She is going to be talking to us about intentional communities and eco-villages. And within the Liberty community, within the unschooling community I've been a part of, within all these different alternative communities, everyone always had the dream of, hey, why don't we get some property and all 6 of our families could live together and we can just do our own thing, grow our own food. Well, a lot of people want to do that, but not very many people do. And so I hope that through this activation, people are feeling super inspired and motivated to go out and do some really big, cool things. And she is going to be providing us with some practical steps to do just that, because it doesn't have to be out of our reach. And that's, like I said in my talk at the beginning of this little activation, I think we should all just opt out, get some intentional communities on the outside of town, link up and form our own little confederation with trade routes and mutual defense compacts, and just leave all this nightmare technocracy in the dust.
What an extremist.
Yeah, and we'll frolic through the flower patches and grow tomatoes and play with our kids today.
I joke about that, but I mean, let's just be real about it for a moment, guys. We're here in 2021, and that language is being used to people who are doing the things that we've been talking about this week. Growing our own food, taking care of our own communities, getting out of these technological control grids, reclaiming our sovereignty, and that's being called extremist. We need to think about that, how just the way of life that we're trying to lead is being demonized. And I think the way that we combat that is to lead by example and to show people that what we're talking about is only extreme to people who desire power and desire authority over other free human beings. Those of us who have no problem and we're free to live and let live, we recognize that this is just, I would say, our gift from our Creator being put on this planet, that we're meant to be free. And technology can play a role in that. We hope you guys have taken some of that away. I asked earlier online on our Telegram channel and our other channels, what was the activation you took away from today? And anybody here who feels like shouting out, I got a couple people saying, I'm going to use a VPN from now on. I'm going to learn more about this pre-search. Anybody else that particular solutions that were presented that they might change or alter their behavior or start learning more about? I guess you guys are already all encrypted, right? Everybody in this room. How many of you are still using Google? It's all right. We won't throw you out the room.
I am.
That might be a good start, I think. Even the fact that, I'll just say this and pass it back to you, John. Even the fact that it's become a verb in our language, I think, is a sign that has been literally implanted in our minds. We don't say search for something. We use their company name as a verb. Maybe we should start thinking about that. DuckDuckGo it, pre-search it, anything else.
Put it in your search browser. Yeah, Xerox did it, Kleenex did it, and Google did it. And remember, it's all about just baby steps. You don't have to overwhelm yourself. A lot of folks are new to this whole thing, right? And these ideas are fresh for them, and they can be daunting or overwhelming. But just try to do one small thing. Just take a small step every day if you can. And before you know it, 2 months down the road, 6 months down the road, 3 years down the road, you may be living an entirely different life that you're more satisfied and aligns with your values more.
Absolutely, yeah. Definitely take small steps. I didn't mean to get us off track with previewing tomorrow, but I definitely want to emphasize the importance of us taking this information seriously, the tech information. And again, reiterate, think about the ways that we might be giving away some of our own privacy. And privacy and liberty are very interconnected. You lose one, it seems difficult to keep the other. But I do want to talk a little bit about tomorrow. Before we go tomorrow, we're also going to be talking with Ted Rao of the Sociocracy for All organization. He's also the author of Many Voices, One Song. And he's going to be talking about sociocracy as a solution for community organizing. We heard a little bit from Lainey the other day about consensus, and we've talked about freedom cells. And really, when it comes to freedom cells, we don't tell people how to organize. We just say, do what's best for your particular community. If that means consensus, if that means, majority rule, if that means whatever. Tomorrow, we'll get to hear from Ted about what sociocracy looks like, how your business, your freedom cell, your community can organize in another decentralized, non-hierarchical way that I think will be really interesting to a lot of you guys. And then we're going to go into a panel. We got another panel that I know we're both excited about how to activate your freedom cells. We're going to hear from several freedom cell members from different parts of the world. We're going to hear from Johan in India. We got Lisa from Oklahoma, and then Nicole from Tennessee. John, you want to talk a little bit about the panel?
Yeah, I think the cool thing that we're going to get out of this panel is just to see the Freedom Cell network in real life. Like, I don't want to steal her thunder, but one of the cool stories about Lisa is she went on the Freedom Cell map at freedomcells.org, and one of the folks in her cadre actually lived in her neighborhood just a couple blocks away. And now they work together and they do gardening together and all sorts of stuff. So if you haven't joined the Freedom Cell Network yet, please go to freedomcells.org and join us, and then participate and check out this panel so you can get some good advice and strategies on how to leverage the Freedom Cell Network to benefit your life. And in doing so, there's a synergy there. There's reciprocity where we can all help one another.
Absolutely, and I want to remind everybody again that if you haven't visited freedomcells.org this week, you just heard Ramiro talk. He's the one who helped us build up the latest infrastructure. We have, 15,000 people, I think? We just passed 15,000 people. Yeah, just throughout the event, we passed 15,000 people from all over the world. The reason we're encouraging you to use it is not so you have another social media site to keep up with. Create an account, put what your interests are, what your skills are. Go use the members map and the cells map. Be sure to add your location, not your house, but the city or the town that you're in, and use the map to search for people 5 miles, 10 miles, 15 miles of where you're at. And it really has become an international movement. Find those people, connect, message each other, start organizing in real life. That's the goal. The website is just the sort of conduit to help you use the maps to find people. And you're going to hear some wonderful stories tomorrow from just some people who are really just doing great. Johan from he's just doing amazing things in India. I mean, he's been making just massive waves and shifts using the Freedom Cells concept, and people are doing it in the US. We got more and more Freedom Cells forming in Mexico as well. Please do check out the website, freedomcells.org. We'll hear all about that tomorrow. And then our last speaker for tomorrow night, I'm super excited about because he's a friend of mine and he's also my permaculture teacher. I'm about to be certified to teach, to be a permaculture teacher if I want to be.
All right.
Ready to share that information with the world, which I'm excited about. And I learned all this information from Stephen Brooks, and Stephen is just a wizard of building communities. If you've ever heard of Envision Festival or Punta Mona in Costa Rica or Alegria in Costa Rica, he's got 4 intentional communities that he's built in Costa Rica over the last 25 years. Him and a team of people, of course, but he's just been this leading force. And he also founded the Envision Festival in Costa Rica as well. But he's just got such a wealth of knowledge on not only on plants and plant medicine and all sorts of great things, but permaculture, organizing communities. And he's going to give us some really practical tips and advice on how to start, as Becca's going to get into, as John was saying. She's going to talk about, everybody's talking about intentional community. I often see these memes going around social media where people are like, oh, don't you just want to get 10 of your best friends and run off to, build an intentional community? It's like this dream or this kind of idea that a lot of us have, but there are practical steps and things that need to take place in order to get there, right? It's not just, especially if you want it to be more than just a meme flying by in your social media feed. If you actually desire this goal, well, then maybe we need to take some concrete steps. And Stephen's going to help get us some ideas rolling on that. And then, of course, we are going to be doing another day on Sunday. And Sunday is a different time. It's not 6 Central PM. It's going to be 12 noon PM. And that'll be through the greaterreset.org website. But yeah, I'm excited about tomorrow, John. Anything else you want to add?
No, just again, it was Derek's idea to call it the Greater Reset Activation. It's not a conference or a festival, and I think that's really what it's all about. So I hope that you leave today inspired and that there's a lot of takeaways that you can implement. It's all about action. Let's do it. And then when we rejoin in May, we can share from the audience. You can share your comments, share some stories on how your life's improved, how you found more freedom and more community.
Absolutely. Let's do it. All right, guys. We'll see you tomorrow. Remember, you are powerful. You are beautiful. You are free.
As we wake up to a new normal today and life is slowly grinding to a halt.
Now masks are becoming the new normal.
Americans are facing a new normal, one that may include losing their jobs, losing their income, and even losing their health insurance.
I don't think we get back to normal. I think we get back, or we get to a new normal.
It's time to reject the new normal.
Now is the historical moment, the time, not only to fight severe virus, but to shape the system.
It's time to reject the Great Reset.
It's time to support the People's Reset.
It's time for the Greater Reset.
From January 25th to the 29th, journalists, activists, researchers, and advocates are hosting the Greater Reset Activation, a 5-day event dedicated to offering an alternative to the World Economic Forum's top-down, centralized, authoritarian vision. Our desire is to help all people find community and liberty by providing practical steps and knowledge for co-creating a world that respects individual liberty, bodily autonomy, and choice.
The Greater Reset is the world's collective response to the World Economic Forum's initiative, the Great Reset. We invite you to join us for 5 days of discussion about the diverse opportunities available for those who seek to live in harmony with humanity and the planet, while respecting our innate freedom.
Each day is dedicated to a different domain and provides solutions to the WEF's vision. Day 1 is dedicated to the Agora and decentralized economics. Tuesday the 26th will focus on health and education. Day 3 will focus on nature, permaculture, and regenerative agriculture. Thursday the 28th will highlight the liberating side of digital technology, including encryption, blockchain, and decentralized autonomous organizations. On Friday, January 29th, we will end the event by showcasing examples of intentional communities, freedom cells, and community organizing.
Don't miss out on this once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to hear from some of the most powerful speakers in the world with a focus on solutions. We encourage everyone to organize local watch parties in your area using freedomcells.org. Also, find out more about the Greater Getaway in-person event in Zihuatanejo, Mexico. Visit thegreaterreset.org for more information.